3, 2, 1, action.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the December 4th, 2025 meeting of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District Board of Education. Item 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, approval of the agenda. Recommended action be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 2.1, President's Report. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone here and at home for coming to observe the work of the board on this very cold December evening. I know many of you are here to discuss the state-funded pre-K lottery program, and I want to thank those of you who wrote the board and to the number of thoughtful community members who reached out to me directly to discuss the history of the program and the desire and need for it to continue. While I've not had an opportunity to respond to each email, I know Superintendent Walker responded regarding the complex nature of state funding for this program, which can vary from year to year. Since the state established this program, board trustees have met regularly with state legislators to advocate for an increase in per pupil allocations, and it remains our top legislative priority this year as well. I myself discussed it with Representative Levenberg at the Lower Hudson Council of Superintendents Legislative Priorities Night last month, which I reported to the board. And I know there is a deep commitment on the part of representatives, including Westchester County Legislator Ulash, who I spoke with earlier this evening, and Senator Hargum, who I know also heard from many of you, to advocate for increased funding per student. As a board, we are committed to continuing to advocate for increased state funding. Excuse me. For pre-kindergarten, we invite you to continue to advocate directly with our state legislators on this important issue. I'd also like to take a moment to speak about the induction of Brian Kelly and Police Chief John Nikotopoulos into the Hall of Distinguished Graduates. Mr. Kelly is from the class of 2004 and currently a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, who after leaving, I don't know if I'm working.
Yeah.
It's okay?
I have some interference.
No worries. After leading an international career, including with the U.S. Department of State and most recently at the White House, I can't do anything to serve his resume and his accomplishments any justice. But the most touching moment to me was when he took the time to credit his teacher, retired teacher, CHHS, Professor Dan Delaney, who remarked on your absence, Neil. I know that you were unable to attend, but he did wonder where Neil was. He credited Mr. Delaney with having instilled in him the need to try new things, and then went on to say that he remembered that when taking the post at The Hague, and then moving on to Afghanistan and Sudan. So in telling all of that, he also spoke about the many other CHHS graduates he had encountered throughout his career, and told our students to dream big and take risks. Chief Nikotopoulos, who is currently our own Croton Hudson Police Chief, was also inducted, hailing from the class of 1977. Next year will mark his 20th year on the force here in Croton. He spoke about his deep desire to serve and help the community. He said it's still what motivates him when responding to emergencies and managing policing in our village. And he told the story of getting in a boat to save some rafts after Hurricane Andrew and the hours they spent searching for survivors. And that as much as that day, he will never forget the hundreds of other interactions where he can serve the community that keep him going. So it was a great morning where alumni returned to share some of their wisdom with the next generation of CHHS graduates. And there were lots of conversations about how much CHHS has changed and grown, including this library where we're here. Many of them didn't remember this portion of the building being here. So I was grateful to be there for the lore and the oral history of it all. And that concludes my president's report this week. We will move into item 2.2, the hearing of the public, and I will reiterate what I said at the beginning. Speakers should approach the podium, state your name and address. You are limited to 3 minutes. The timer will be there, obviously, and members of the public in attendance at the meeting are expected to remain quiet unless they're going to make a comment as this is being recorded. All right, so first people, whoever wants to go.
Hi, my name is Sarah Forth, and I live at 54 Beekman Avenue in Croton. Thank you to the members of the Board of Education and Superintendent Walker for allowing us the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm one of the co-owners and co-directors at Children's Face North, an early childhood program here in Croton that serves children ages 6 weeks to 5 years old. Last year, our private early childhood program took on the challenge of hosting the Croton School District's UPK program. We knew going into this that the budget was going to be a challenge, but we wanted to do this to give back to the Croton community, the Croton School District, and our parent community at Children's Face North. While it has been an incredibly rewarding and positive experience for us, the problem remains that it is not adequately funded and we are unable to meet the basic cost of running the program. We've made as many changes as possible in order to reduce the cost and continue this year. However, we're still operating with an insurmountable budgetary deficit, and as a result, our business is subsidizing the program to fill the funding gap between what the state provides and the actual costs of running the program. To be clear, the lack of funding comes from several inequities at the state level. As the host program in Croton, we are given $4,860 per child per year. That equals $114 per week. And if you break it down further, it is $4.57 per hour per child. This funding has to cover the salaries of New York State certified teachers, as well as all of the costs associated with operating a program, which includes but is not limited to rent, insurance, learning materials, furniture, and basic everyday supplies. For those with young children, you know that you can't hire a babysitter and go out for dinner and a movie for less than $100 these days, yet we're expected to pay high-quality teachers and run a high-quality program on $114 a week per child. To help put things further in perspective, other neighboring districts that opened up later than the Croton School District under an expansion grant from New York State were awarded $10,000 per student simply based on the timing of their program's opening. We, along with many parents in our district, have reached out to Senator Pete Harcum and other local politicians. They agree that the funding needs to be changed at the state level in order to make it more equitable across all districts in Westchester County. They're willing to go to bat for us in Albany. However, this will take time to change at the policy level and will not be in place for the next school year.
Hello, I'm Stacy Hall. I live at 15 Park Trail. I'm also the co-owner and co-director at Children's Face North. Thank you for allowing us the time to speak. We're here sharing this information because we believe this is a program worth fighting for. The landscape of early childhood education is changing, and high-quality UPK programs have proven to offer both long and short-term benefits to all parties involved. It's now offered in almost every school district in Westchester County. It benefits students, families, and the district by providing children with a strong educational foundation while helping them achieve skill levels that meet or exceed New York State learning standards. Rather than playing catch-up with incoming kindergarten students, the school can hit the ground running, which leads to less spending on intervention and support services and ultimately leads to higher test scores. And it benefits homeowners in our community because a district that provides a UPK program is a more desirable place for young families to live. We want this to work. We've created a high-quality, successful educational program, and we're willing to operate at a break-even cost of $7,500 per student. We want our community to know that we've done everything we can to make this work. If the Board of Education and the district administrators decide that this is not a priority for our school district, that is okay, but then it can no longer be a priority for our small business. We can no longer subsidize the Croton-Harmon District's UPK program. We're here to make it clear that without additional funding from the state, the district, or a combination of both, we will not be able to operate the UPK program beyond this school year. We simply can't afford to continue funding the gap between the state grant and the actual cost of running the program. Before we finish, we would like to add that the district has worked closely with us and has provided a great deal of support in non-monetary ways. We would especially like to thank Lauren Carroll and Rachel DePaul for their efforts in supporting us. We don't see the district as our adversaries in this fight for education, but we do recognize that we're both at a crossroads, and we as a community have to decide what we value and what's a priority for our school district and this wonderful village that we all call home. Thank you for your time.
Is anyone else going to speak?
Hi. Good evening, President Teague and members of the board. My name is Jacob Day. I live at 9 Wood Road in Croton. I'm here tonight representing the families fighting to save Universal Pre-K in Croton. 2 weeks ago, we learned that the district officials have chosen not to recommend funding supplementing the state UPK program in Croton. Earlier this week and tonight, as you heard, Children's Space North, who operates 44 of our 56 pre-K seats, confirmed they'll discontinue the program after this school year without increased funding. We understand the administration has made a recommendation, but as board members, you have the responsibility to, quote, ensure that budget decisions align with educational priorities and the needs of our students, staff, and community. And tonight, we're asking you to consider a different path forward. The research on pre-K is clear. Children who attend quality pre-K programs are 39% more likely to graduate high school and 20 to 40% less likely to need special education services. For Croton specifically, that means big savings. We spend over $6 million annually on special ed. If pre-K prevents even a handful of placements over the next few years, the program is paid for itself. I've heard the argument that pre-K funding is a state responsibility, and I understand that perspective. But every district in New York faces this gap, and the successful ones have decided they can't wait for Albany. They found ways to fill the gap locally because their younger learners can't afford to wait. So I'd like to understand 3 things. What options has the board considered to retain all 56 pre-K seats for next year? Children's Space North is the second provider after Happy Hours to drop out of this program within its first 5 years. So what alternatives have you explored? Second, how do we reconcile contributing 0 local funds for pre-K while investing over $38,000 per K through 12 student? How does that reflect our values around equity? Third, with a $60 million budget, is there truly no path to allocate 1/2 of 1% to a program that is essential for early education? As board members, you set the priorities. You have the power to direct the administration to develop a funding solution and present it in the budget. You can ask for a sustainability plan. You can request alternative scenarios. I understand there's budget constraints, state requirements, other priorities, but from where these families sit, this looks like a choice. Do we prioritize early childhood education, or do we prioritize something else? We're asking you to choose these 56 seats. We're asking you to find the $250,000 in a $60 million budget. We're asking you to make Croton a pre-K through 12 district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Grubiak. I live at 40 Finney Farm Road in Croton with my wife and 2.5-year-old son, Ezra. I'm here tonight also to talk about a UPK and hopefully provide a potential solution. So as I've heard and as I know, this is an issue that stems from the state. And on Monday, I had a conversation with Senator Pete Harcum, and I told him I was coming tonight, and he wanted me to relay to you 2 points that I'm going to outline now. First, the senator is making fully funding UPK his #1 priority in the state budget this year, but he asked for help. So the first thing that he thinks you can do, and I think you can do, is pass a board resolution supporting his efforts up in Albany to fully fund UPK. The second thing that I'm asking for, and he's asking for as well, is help lobbying. So along with this community that came out tonight, we're going to be hosting a lot of community events. I'm going to invite you personally. I hope you can join us. We're going to be doing actions up in Albany. The senator has invited us to come to Albany during the budget season to lobby other legislators to make them understand how important this is, and then how critical providers like Children's Space North are, and how they are getting less funding than people right down the road. But we need your help to lobby. So again, a board resolution and then helping us come to these meetings, going up to Albany. It's going to be very, very critical that you join us as partners in doing that. The second thing, and the more important thing for this coming year, is he reiterated to me, and I'm sure he would say the same thing to you, that there is no possibility for a short-term funding gap, meaning that Children's Space North will close down unless you figure out a way to do a one-year commitment to keep them open. And to me, as a taxpayer, as a parent, I think it's fair to say that if you commit to 1 year of funding to keep Children's Space North open, while this community and all of us work together up in Albany to try and change the funding structure, that just makes a ton of sense to me. And I hope you'll join us in that effort. Because if you sit back and if we do nothing this year, Children's Space North will close and those seats will be gone for at least 1 full year of UPK students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Claire Benoit, and I live on Wooddale Avenue in Croton-on-Hudson. I have a 5-year-old kindergartner at CET and a future kindergartner. I'm here tonight to talk to you about our deep concerns, my husband and I, regarding the use of personal devices and screen time in their school, especially for the younger grades. When we first heard about the iPad before school started, we were shocked. We are even more saddened now to realize just how much time they are spending glued to the screen. It feels like we're blatantly disregarding what research and pediatric guidelines have set forward in terms of the amount of screen times that kids this age should be receiving. The apathy I've encountered with administrators, teachers, and other grown-ups that I've spoken to about this issue has been disheartening as well. My daughter watches YouTube in class every day with commercials, car commercials, diaper commercials, wipes commercials. She watched Bluey today. We watched Pete the Cat episodes. We watched Witch on a Broom movies. They watch videos in music class, in Spanish class. Woolly Wednesday lessons is oftentimes a video. For movement and brain breaks, you guessed it, they watch videos. They watch videos during snack time, during transitions, during dismissal, instead of interacting with their peers. And they also watch Alpha Blocks, which is, I've been told, educational, but it is at the end of the day just a corporate broadcast TV show, and it has no place in a kindergarten classroom. We feel that we are feeding our kids brain rot, and it's being disguised as ed tech. Mr. Walker, at the October 9th BOE meeting, you said that you had begun shadowing students to track their daily use of technology and screen time. And I'm here to ask, what are the results of this study? When will your findings be made public? And what changes will be implemented based on your findings? One thing that my daughter did do great with was UPK. She thrived at UPK. It's a program that now appears at risk. I understand why. And I can't help to think about the gross amount of money that we're spending on these devices, maintaining them, the amount of times that the devices aren't working, that she knows that the teachers have to put in an IT ticket. It seems ridiculous to me. We are underfunding the things that actually matter in terms of childhood education. I'm not going to have time to go through that whole thing. I'm sure you've seen all the studies that, yes, screen time do make the children more engaged, more interested, but it does not make them learn more. They retain better on paper, they learn better, and they have fewer distractions, and the distractions reduce comprehension. Sorry, I'm nervous. They need human connection, they need play, they need books, they need conversation, they need teachers to look at them and to be able to look at a teacher and not just screens. I'm here to ask
I'm so sorry, but your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Anderson at O'Reilly Court. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm the founder of the Croton Community Collective, a group of about 200 parents and community members. Our goal is to support healthy childhoods by removing smartphones and social media from childhood. We also aim to partner with our school to be mindful, to create mindful technology that aligns with the state's internet and enabled device ban. I want to share what many families reported as a typical educational experience in our district, from kindergarten through high school. I do this with deep respect for our incredible teachers and administrators and with the hope that we can work together to create meaningful change. Families in Croton are tech intentional. Many limit screens in early childhood and choose daycares and preschools like Children's Space North that do not use devices at all. Their children enter kindergarten and are given one-to-one iPads. In some classrooms, these children are taking photos and recording voiceovers because they are not yet ready to write or type. Families worry this mirrors social media habits instead of early childhood learning. In first grade, children sit in the hallways with headphones in their personal sound booths and read to an app instead of reading to a teacher or a peer. When teachers are absent, many children report spending most of the day on devices. Epic, Lexia, Zern, ABCia, and YouTube videos of adults reading books instead of teachers. Every Wednesday at CET, students must eat lunch silently while watching SEL video clips. Families are confused about why screens are used during snack or lunch, since so many in this community avoid screens during meals at home. Also, why are screens provided as options for indoor recess or choice time activities? In middle school, families report that most curriculum is online. Students easily become off task and access games. Several families have shared that they are pursuing private schools and sports scholarships as a means to receive an education with less screen exposure. When students arrive in high school, they enter a building where the new state law on banning smartphones is not being fully implemented. The explanation has been that the building is an open campus, yet many open campus schools across the state are following the law successfully. What makes all of this more frustrating is the belief that the rising mental health concerns are driven by academic pressure when national research consistently shows strong links between high screen exposure and increased anxiety, distraction, and social changes. How can we work together to return a healthier balance? Families want more reading from print, collaborative off-screen experiences, and fewer technology distractions. Teachers deserve real materials, books for lending libraries, and curriculum with physical mentor texts and workbooks. Could the money we save on less tech ed and devices be used for UPK, real books, and to return enrichment programs? I end with one clear question. What needs to happen for real change? We have had parents email, meet with the admin, come and speak at meetings. We have a large community collective to advocate for our children, but yet things are moving too slowly for many families to feel comfortable remaining in our school district. Please tell us and we will do it. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Turnbull. I live at Thompson Avenue. I'm speaking today both as a mom and a member of the local business community. I opened Little Star Pastry on Maple Street when my son was enrolled in our UPK. Before that, he was enrolled in a nursery school that ran from just 9 in the morning to 11:45 a.m. because that's what made sense financially for my family. It's been argued that there is no lack of accessible preschool options in our area, but that's only partially true. I'm gonna take a breath. Yes, my son had access to quality nursery school before UPK, but it was only accessible because I stalled my career. For 2 years, he hung out with me at home, played drums on the mixing bowls, and like FaceTimed my mom to learn the alphabet. She read to him. I grew my business at a very slow snail's pace because I only had time to do one farmer's market a week with the amount of childcare that I had. Enrolling him in daycare to move my ambitions along more quickly would have meant living beyond our means, pulling from savings that I set aside to open a business. The UPK program gave my family the financial freedom we needed to take the big swing and open the business. Perhaps affordability doesn't impact your decision, but the UPK and childcare in general don't exist in a vacuum. They exist in an economy that pushes women out of the workforce and stalls our career because of the debilitating cost of childcare. Letting our UPK program die would be a terrible step backward for our community. And perhaps it's true that many families in our community don't need, in the most literal sense, the UPK in order to send their kids to preschool. But I assure you, there are many families in our village that need the program. I love our village and I love being a part of its business community. We have so few big box stores, I know almost every business owner in this town by name. We're lucky to live in a village with such generous, community-minded businesses. We sponsor sports teams, donate to the PTA, buy ads in every single program you can imagine. I'm asked for donations weekly, as are all of my peers, and we say yes constantly. I know Sarah and Stacy, my 3-year-old is a student at Children's Space, and you would be hard-pressed to find 2 people more generous with their time and resources. To expect them to continue to run a program for our public good at a loss is beyond the pale. We deserve better than an underfunded program. We aren't asking for anything radical here. All the communities around us managed to make this happen. Looking at Mount Vernon, there's a precedent in Westchester for school districts to contribute funds. We're talking about 0.5% of an annual budget. I implore you to consider it seriously. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalie Gershkin. I live at 27 Wolf Road, and I'm here also to speak about the UPK fund. I emailed you, Mr. Walker, and you responded, so thank you so much for your response. I really appreciate your time. I wanted to go through some of the points that you brought up in that email and talk about them. So one of the points against funding the program is that there were open seats that were not used, and that reflects a lack of interest. I don't necessarily think that that is due to a lack of interest in UPK. I think it may have more to do with perhaps how the lottery system is structured. For example, if someone were offered a seat at Rising Star and turned it down, they weren't necessarily given the opportunity to get a spot at Children's Space, even if some of them were available, which I think that they were. So I think adjusting that lottery system could solve that problem. Other districts also, so another point in the letter is that other districts supplement UPK because the state rate is outdated. In this, we obviously all agree, we know that that is true, but I think it seems as though Croton is one of the few that does provide the program and that is not finding a way to help or to subsidize, and as we've heard, I think getting rid of the program would not help the state come in with more funding. Another point that was made was that the district already benefits from a robust K-12 enrollment. As a response to this, strong early education pipelines help stabilize future enrollment. It increases kindergarten readiness and reduces intervention costs later. So I think supporting UPK is not separate from a K-12 mission, it actually strengthens that mission. The letter frames UPK as optional rather than foundational. New York created UPK because early childhood education has clear long-term academic and social benefits, so treating it as outside the district's core mission does not match the research and the realities of families' needs. If the state intends for the district to offer it, then the local partnership is part of delivering that functioning program. Of course, budgetary risk was stated in the letter, but the full amount to support this program is so little and nominal compared to the entire budget. It's also a predictable amount that can be planned for annually to help create this hybrid funding model, at least in the interim while we wait for the state. Finally, I think it will be extremely difficult to rebuild this program and to resuscitate it if it goes away. We've already seen Happy Hearts after 3 years drop the program, and now Children's Space North is coming to state their challenges. I think that families will lose a trusted option, and the decision to avoid supplementing it now can have long-term consequences that may not be able to be reversed. As a parent personally, I can also vouch for the incredible education. I have 2 children at Children's Space North, a third coming on the way, and I could not put more trust into these 2 women and the teachers who work there. So I hope that we can find a way to keep the program going so that we don't lose it and are unable to bring it back in the future. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Kelsey Moreau, and I live at 39 Hollis Lane. As a Croton parent with young children in the school system, seeing the very real-life consequences of the decisions of this board, I feel compelled to speak tonight. We agree with the board that the UPK funding from the state is insufficient and that our wonderful local providers are struggling to operate a financially viable program without taking a significant hit to their business. However, the board has recently decided that it will not recommend that the district supplement the UPK program. The board bases its position on a few points. First, the board notes that the UPK enrollment has not filled all available seats in recent years, but after speaking with many families that have decided to withdraw from the UPK program over the last few years, The number of empty seats is not really a sign of a lack of demand, but instead it's been a reflection of the uncertain future of the program. Stable funding would create a stable program which would result in a stable enrollment. Second, the district expressed concern about potential impacts for the K-12 program, and we fully understand the need to protect the K-12 programs, but the amount required to sustain UPK is $250,000, less than 1/2 of the district budget. This is not a diversion of resources that would jeopardize the strength of our schools. In fact, studies have proven that high-quality early education at the preschool level directly benefits the K-12 system by reducing remediation needs, improving elementary school readiness, and strengthening long-term academic outcomes. This is further underscored by the district's recent Instagram posts touting the recent improvement in proficiency in its 3rd and 4th grade students, an improvement which coincidentally directly coincides with the onset of Croton's UPK program. Funding UPK is not competing with K-12, it is directly supporting it by contributing to the success of its students. Third, the district has repeatedly stated that Croton has accessible preschool options that will remain even if UPK closes. UPK is not just another preschool option. It is the only publicly funded early education pathway available to all families, and frankly, this response was just disappointing. Croton often prides itself on being a community where everyone is welcome and given an opportunity to be supported. And yet, the board's current approach would disproportionately impact those families least able to absorb tuition costs, and it would widen the school readiness gap that Croton has worked so hard to narrow. Tonight, we are asking for a very small investment to preserve a program that delivers long-term benefits to this community, and are asking the district to partner with our providers in a concrete and meaningful way. Without the district's support, the UPK program that is currently being run at Children's Space will close. We've asked them to step up for our community, and we ask the same from you. Thank you for your time.
I just want to clarify something. The board has not taken a position or made a decision on anything.
Right, but we understand that the board is recommending that the district not.
The board hasn't recommended anything.
I think there was some communication from, I think, a letter from Superintendent Walker and certain other members that says that they're not recommending supplementing
what
the
the
district.
That was, yeah.
The district.
We'll clarify that.
All right, that's fine.
But I just-
Whoever's making those decisions, we're asking this of you. Thank you.
Hi all, as some of you know, my name is Jody Epstein-Holger and I live at 1 Sunset Drive. I have a 4.5-year-old and an 18-month-old. My 18-month-old is going to Children's Space North in February. My profession is public affairs, communications, and political fundraising. Firstly, thank you to the Board of Education and Superintendent Walker for your time. I appreciate you listening as I speak to why it's imperative to safeguard and advance universal pre-K in Croton-on-Hudson. I moved to Croton in 2018, house sight unseen after having lived in LA in my 20s. I was confident in our decision to do so because I knew Croton to be a friendly community with great schools. I grew up in Yorktown Heights, and we planned on having a family one day. Since 2018, and before that in many ways, many things have been hard. Harder than I could have imagined. Getting a job, buying and renovating a house, COVID, paying off student loans, having children during COVID, family deaths, major health catastrophes, extreme political polarization, an Obama presidency, then a Trump presidency, then Biden, then Trump. The cost of everything has risen without salaries following. Things have been unpredictable, essential jobs have been removed, budgets have been cut, industries have been evolving, shifting, and dissolving. Real estate prices have gone through the roof. Dreams of a larger house to accommodate a growing family, out of reach. Many parents who didn't buy before COVID can't now. And with it all, we've been able to make our way in this world because of Croton, because of our neighbors who are always there to lend a helping hand. We are so fortunate to live here. My husband and I come from a working class family, his parents a teacher and firefighter, my parents a mailman and a nonprofit professional. They moved to Westchester so that their children could go to good schools and it worked. My husband and I rose in the ranks of our professions. Many in Croton have this story. A lot of life came at us at once. We had a child during COVID, an emergency C-section that left me with low oxygen, hindering my bond with my child. 5 of our extended family members died during COVID. My mom got blood cancer. I got pregnant again. My mom had a massive life-altering stroke. My mom and I were both at Phelps Hospital. My mom on the stroke floor and me on the You know what I mean. I left my job in higher education because it didn't make sense mentally, physically, and financially to stay. It took 1 year to get my mom on Medicaid. I'm an only child. It took months of reflection to convince myself that my job didn't equate to failure. Leaving my job didn't equate to failure. Many in Croton have this story. I bring this up because there should be no assumption that residents of Croton can get by without the governmental and social services that are afforded to us. I'm gonna keep going. Parents are constantly playing the game of chess, trying to figure out schedules while trying to do the best for their children. A lot of change is hard. We saw a change with a new baby, a one-income household, a disabled grandparent needing 24/7 care. My son showed signs of needing more support, and many in Croton shared this story. We needed a more robust UPK program that was proven to be effective. We chose not to enter the UPK lottery, which would mean paying for private PK and me staying home to be with my youngest for a longer period of time, which was a gift I acknowledge. Personally, growing up, it never seemed fathomable that leaving my job would be the better option, but this is the choice that many families, women in particular, are grappling with today. My son is thriving. Anyway, please let us know how we can help. We are willing. There's no other option but saving and strengthening Croton's UPK. Thank you. And I'm going to email you the rest of this.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Pesh. I live at Joseph Wallace Drive here in Croton, and I'm the mother of Polly Henderson, who is a 4.5-year-old and attends a Rising Star as part of the UPK program. Since Polly started, he has been thriving both socially and academically, thanks to the amazing teachers and staff. These early years are crucial for children's development, and I've seen firsthand how the program is benefiting him. We moved here from Manhattan, where universal pre-K is extremely successful, and quite honestly, not a question. We chose to live in Croton because we believed in the value of good schools, and we were willing to invest in higher taxes for better education. Taking away universal pre-K would hurt the families who need it most during such a critical time in their children's lives. The teachers deserve fair compensation for their dedication. I urge the board to include the funding for universal pre-K in this year's budget. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Carnavale. I live on White Street in Croton, and I have gotten to know the early childhood landscape through a number of different roles. I'm an educator, a psychologist at Burgess College, one of our local higher ed institutions, and in that role I teach a course for students who are going into early childhood education, where they spend their time working at our on-campus daycare center, where I sit on the board of directors. In this role, I know how expensive it is to provide high-quality early childhood education. I'm also the mother of a current UPK enrollee. Other people have spoken about the research that clearly indicates that UPK programs improve educational outcomes throughout K through 12. And we also know from research that educational disparities open up very early in a learner's life, and that high-quality early childhood education closes and remediates those gaps. Full access to pre-kindergarten lifts our entire Croton community, and especially lifts our most vulnerable learners. Kindergarten did not become a standard part of public education until during my lifetime, and I don't consider myself that old. It's time to commit to making pre-K a standard, reliable part of our educational experience in Croton. While we are all in agreement that the state should be providing more support for this essential early childhood education, we also have a role and a responsibility to serve our values with our dollars to make sure that early childhood education access for all in Croton indicates the importance that we all agree it has for our youngest learners.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. My name is Gianna Catherine, and I live at Lexington Drive. I have 3 young sons, 5, 3, and 1. My oldest is excelling in kindergarten right now, and I really credit much of his success to the preparation he received in our UPK program. My 2 younger children, along with all the other early learners in our community, deserve the same opportunity. The prospect of losing this program is such a disservice and a step back for the families of Croton. Universal pre-K is a critical education foundation. Research consistently shows that high-quality pre-K produces lasting benefits, improved math, higher graduation rates, increased college enrollment. But beyond the statistics, I see it every day in my kindergartner. He entered school ready to learn, socially, emotionally, and academically. He knew how a classroom was structured, how to follow directions, work with peers, and approach learning with confidence. That's what UPK gave him, and that's what my younger children and the rest of the community continue to need. We cannot simply abandon the future children and families of Croton. Neighboring districts can make it work, why can't we? I understand budget pressures are real, but this is an investment in our community's children and families. Even if we need to contribute modest local funds temporarily while we pursue additional grants or wait for New York State to fund it fully, isn't it worth it? We consistently vote to support our schools in Croton-on-Hudson because we value education. UPK is education. It's the foundation that gives children like my son the tools to succeed in kindergarten and beyond. It's the support that allows families to work and thrive, and it's the commitment we made to our community. Before the board cancels UPK, I'm asking you to provide financial transparency. What will it take to maintain this program? Let's learn from the successful peer districts like Yorktown and Head Hut, but better yet, let's join them together to advocate for better pupil rates. Maybe we can lobby with them together. Let's aim to fill all 79 allocated seats to maximize our current state funding and put us in a better position to potentially get additional funding. This program matters. It matters to my children. It matters to all the children. It matters to the working parents who depend on it. It matters to the kindergarten teachers who see the difference with the UPK makes UPK makes to the children's readiness to learn. Croton-on-Hudson prides itself on being a community that values education and supports families. Canceling this program would be a betrayal to those values. Show us you've exhausted every option. Show us the numbers, and show us you've pursued the same state funding that other districts have secured. Show us you fought for our children the way this community fights for its schools. Don't cancel the program. Let's save it. Our children deserve it, our families, and our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Lopez, and I live at 12 Elm Street, just behind the dining room. My daughter is 4 years old, and she's currently enrolled in the pre-K program at Children's Space North. We moved from the Bronx last spring. We were fortunate enough to receive a placement, so late in the game in this program. Before coming here, my daughter attended a program in the Bronx where she had a very noisy classroom. There were no windows, nothing like that. And she cried a drop off every day. Since starting in the program here, the pre-K program, she's been able to spend time in nature, and the curriculum is very thoughtful in supporting her sensory needs. I know this because I'm a special education speech therapist in the Bronx, so I work with students like my daughter. She recently qualified for OT, PT, and speech, and I believe that the school's attentiveness and advocacy played a big role in identifying and supporting those needs. She's my youngest. My older daughter never struggled that much socially, so this daughter is very different. She had a hard time with self-confidence, forming friendships, but she's very excited to go to kindergarten now because she has those friends transitioning to kindergarten. And I really think that this was really key in her success coming here because it was such a big transition to move at that age for her. So my family is also really integrated into the community because of my daughter being in the pre-K program. We've met new local families, and I'm not sure we would have been able to build those connections otherwise. First grade is kind of a different game with my older daughter. It's easier to build those relationships when you're meeting other pre-K parents, and given the cost of living here, it was not an easy process for us to come here. We would have had to send my daughter to a school in the Bronx because it would have been more affordable. And I commute down there, so that would have been very difficult for us. So this program's made a huge difference in our family's life and my daughter's adjustment, and allowing her to simply be a child while receiving the services that she needs. We share our story along with others here because not only of what this program has done for us, but because of what we want other families now in the future in Croton, now that we're planning on being here for the rest of our lives, to have the same opportunity that we had. And I do believe every child, like we all believe, deserves access to this kind of nurturing, high-quality early education environment. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Levine, and I live on Cooney Street here in Croton. My son is currently enrolled in the UPK program here at Children's Space North. Every day, I see how he's growing, both academically, socially, and emotionally. High quality early childhood education doesn't just prepare children for kindergarten, it shapes their entire trajectory of their learning. My son not only is learning foundational subjects, reading, writing, science, problem solving, but he's developing a genuine love for learning through this program. A robust UPK program also makes Croton a more attractive place for young families to settle. Parents consistently look for communities with strong early education options, and that directly influences our district's enrollment, community vitality, and overall tax base. By investing in Children's Space North and our UPK program, the district ensures that Croton remains a place where families want to live and where children can thrive from their very first years of schooling. I urge the district to commit to this program, not only for the children who are here today, but for the generations to follow. Strong schools start with a strong foundation. This program is the foundation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lilia Roslin and I live on Melrose Avenue. My family just moved to Croton at the end of May. We spent a very long 4 years looking for a home here. One of the biggest reasons we wanted to put down roots in Croton was a strong sense of community and its commitment to high quality public education. My 4-year-old is currently in the Children's Space North UPK program and is thriving. The thought that my 1-year-old may not have the access to the same opportunity is heartbreaking. I understand the district is facing difficult budget choices and that UPK funding from the state is inadequate, but I want to respond to 2 key points that have been mentioned. The idea that unfilled UPK seats mean there is insufficient demand, and the suggestion that daycare or preschool options in the area are a substitute for UPK. Several families were blocked from UPK because of the placement process, not because they didn't want it. One parent declined a seat at a provider that wasn't the right fit and then wasn't allowed to enroll with their child's existing UPK provider even when seats opened. They wanted UPK but lost access because of rigid rules, which creates open seats that don't reflect true demand. I personally know of 3 of the 5 unfilled seats that can be directly traced back to this issue. These families wanted and needed UPK. And honestly, the idea that Croton lacks the demand for UPK is completely out of touch with what families here experience. UPK's accessibility is a constant topic among Croton parents. The demand is definitely there. It's also important not to confuse daycare or private preschool with UPK. Daycare provides supervision, preschool supports early learning, but UPK is public education aligned with state standards in preparing children for kindergarten. We fully recognize that the district must protect its core programs, but we are asking the district to consider whether a short-term bridge or support is possible while the community continues to push for proper state funding. We chose Croton because this is a community that invests in its children. In a community where we all pay significant taxes to support strong public education, eliminating access to early education feels like a giant step backwards. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Annie Vallow. I live on Melrose Avenue, right over the hill. I'm speaking tonight as both a parent of a child currently enrolled in the UPK program and as an educator who has witnessed firsthand how critical early childhood education is to future success. First, I want to thank Mr. Walker for responding to our recent email expressing support for continued and expanded access to UPK. As stated in the response I received, the district began offering UPK in 2021 and has continued working with providers to structure the program. My son has directly benefited from that work. He waits to be excited for school, has developed socially and academically, and is better prepared for kindergarten thanks to the work and space that Sarah and Stacy have created at Children's Space North. However, I want to address a few points raised in Mr. Walker's communication respectfully and as someone who deeply values education of all ages. It was noted that not all available spots have been filled in recent years. My concern is not availability, it's the continuation of the program. Families cannot rely on a program that fluctuates based on yearly costs, state funding trends, or enrollment numbers. If we want more families to participate, the program needs stability, clear communication, and a guarantee that it will be there next year and the year after for younger siblings, as is in my case. Mr. Walker also referenced concerns that supplementing UPK would reduce resources for students in grades K through 12. I understand that prioritization is required, but having worked in schools myself, I also know that strong early childhood programs actually lighten the burden on K-12 teachers. A well-prepared kindergarten class means fewer gaps to fill, fewer behavioral challenges due to lack of readiness, and better long-term academic outcomes. UPK should not be seen as separate from K-12, but rather as an essential foundation for it. It was also shared that operating costs have become unpredictable year to year. That is precisely why investment matters now. The state funding model is not keeping pace, and waiting for the state to act leaves families uncertain and children entering kindergarten with inconsistent experiences. With all due respect, I do not believe we currently have no evidence of lack of early childhood access. Lack of unfilled seats does not necessarily reflect lack of need. It also reflects limited program hours, limited availability within certain providers, transportation barriers, and uncertainly families feel, not knowing whether openings will be available for younger siblings in future years. I want to emphasize that I'm asking for commitment. Any level of supplemental support will create stability so families can plan, so enrollment can grow consistently, and so the message is clear. This district values early learning as part of the educational trajectory. I want both of my children to begin school with the same level of readiness that my oldest has gained this year. Not because it's convenient, but because I've seen firsthand as a teacher that this foundation accelerates growth later, and how much harder it is to fill those gaps later on as a remedial middle school reading teacher. I truly appreciate the district's advocacy to state legislators, and I will gladly join in that effort as encouraged. But while the state catches up, and it will take time, I'm asking the board to consider ways the district can help sustain the program now, so families like mine do not lose that access. Thank you for your time, for listening, and for your continued commitment on doing what is best for all children, even the ones who aren't in kindergarten yet.
I'm Shawnee Wiesiak, 128 Cleveland Drive. Good evening. I'm here once again to ask the district about how they're going to address the ongoing lack of compliance with the bell-to-bell device ban, or at the very least, present a clear plan for collecting and reporting compliance data as outlined in the New York State recommendations. This issue has been raised repeatedly via email, via coming to this board and speaking, yet the district continues to ignore requests to implement the state mandated ban. While my own children are only in 5th and 2nd grade, I do not want to wait until they're in high school and be told this is just how it's always been. At the same time, the district is expanding iPad use and shifting more instruction onto digital platforms. Yet parents have received no information about what data these apps collect, how it is stored, or who it is shared with. We are actively using Seesaw, which is currently involved in a lawsuit with the state of California over student data practices, and to my knowledge, I have never given consent for my children's information to be shared with any third parties. The lack of transparency is unacceptable, especially as the district increases student digital exposure. I'm going to skip over what I have to say about the lower school because there's been some examples in the elementary school, but I'll say that we also know that middle school students are using their district-issued iPads in ways that raise concerns. Many are accessing fake Roblox games, and when the legitimate Roblox platform already has well-documented issues with inappropriate content and predatory behavior, it's only reasonable to question what risks exist in unregulated knockoff versions. These examples show how quickly school-issued devices can move students into spaces that are not monitored, not instructional, and not necessarily safe. We know students are playing games during class. They're having to be told repeatedly to put their iPads away during class, taking away from instruction and putting that burden on teachers. These devices are addictive, and it's clear that the school has no real control over their use during the day. As parents, me as a parent, made a deliberate decision not to give our children tablets at home. So having the district hand both of them iPads this fall without meaningful safeguards, boundaries, or communication feels demoralizing. I'm asking this district to treat digital safety, data privacy, instructional quality, and device overuse as the urgent issues that they are. We need transparency, we need accountability, and our students need a plan that protects their learning, their privacy, and their well-being. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Jevish and I live on Birch Court. My 4-year-old is currently thriving due to the support and resources provided by Children's Space North UPK program, and I'm hopeful my 2-year-old will have the same opportunity. I'm also speaking as a local pediatrician, where in my office I witness the difference early education makes, especially for children from families facing economic or social barriers. UPK is not just an educational investment, it's preventative care. I see firsthand how early childhood experiences shape long-term health, learning, and well-being. The evidence is unmistakable. Children who participate in high-quality UPK enter kindergarten more prepared, develop stronger social and language skills, and are far more likely to thrive academically. Funding UPK is one of the smartest, most compassionate choices we can make for our community. Our children deserve the best starts possible, and we should focus on the seats that are filled. UPK has made a tremendously positive impact for my 4-year-old, and I hope we can come together as a community to give this opportunity to our future generations. The bottom line from this meeting is that the community desires UPK. Please tell us parents what it will take to support Sarah and Stacy to keep this program alive.
Hello, my name is Ryan Peterson. I live on Elmore Avenue. I have a son, Isaiah. He is in kindergarten. He just turned 6. We didn't quite move here for the early education. We moved here for the sidewalks, but Isaiah was here in Croton since he was 2, and he was in daycares, daily daycares. We're luckily in a position where we can afford to put him in daycares if there was no UPK. When time came for UPK, we didn't get into it, but at that point, I'd met Stacy and Sarah, and I decided I was one of the people who opted out of the alternative UPK choices because I felt like I found the place Isaiah needs to be. Isaiah currently is one of the students who requires occupational therapy. He has sensory issues. He has an aide in kindergarten. He's one of the students who requires extra help in kindergarten. He is doing very well in kindergarten. I attribute that largely to his 1 year at Children's Space North. I imagine if I was in the board's position, the district's position, I would think, hey, what's a 1 year gap? State funding is coming. There's been very good arguments around that. I won't reiterate them. What I do want to say is, I think the concern that I would have is if the gap results in the loss of UPK at Children's Space North and Stacy and Sarah and the program they have built, that would be a loss to the community. I know it would have been a loss to my son. While we were there, we were notified of some of the issues he had, and we were able to get the help. We got help through CPSC, we got help with professionals, and it is ongoing. He is doing well in kindergarten. I think he would be doing better if he was at Children's Space North for more years. In fact, when we had the final review with his teachers, I cried because I was filled with regret that I had gotten him in the program earlier. And so I just want to leave you with that. I think I understand budgets in terms of timelines, you know, what's a year, but I do want to highlight, I think having sampled from some of the daycares in the region, it would be a great loss to lose the UPK program at Children's Space North. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christina Alvarez-Arnold. I first want to thank you all for taking time this evening away from being with your families to hear the community and what we have to say about this important issue. I am here to talk about UPK. Of course, everyone benefits when the children come into kindergarten ready academically and socially to be in school. But I would like to speak about equity. There are several pitfalls in which a student might find herself at a disadvantage among her classmates due to her family's limited income. Being hungry, cold, or stressed about family economics can get in the way of doing well in school. We also know that having to work or watch younger siblings can impinge upon study time. Access to Wi-Fi is becoming increasingly important and another area of disparity. And of course, she may not have the advantages of summer enrichment programs or private tutors. As she's about to leave Croton Harmon High School, this building, the inequity will be unavoidable. As applying for college becomes biased toward private test tutors, private writing tutors, and private consultants who can guide some but not all kids through the complicated high-stakes application program. And then there's the expense of college itself. I know you all share these concerns because I know that folks here at the school and in the community have stepped up when these pitfalls have occurred. And I wish that I lived in a state that valued equity and valued giving all children a fair start. But I hope that in the meantime, this board and this administration can find the funds to support UPK so that at the very least, a student can start out when she enters our building for the first time with a little bit of a fairer standing with her peers. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you for your time. My name is Travis Irby. I live on Mount Airy Road East and I have two sons. One's 5, one's 3. My 5-year-old went to UPK at Children's Space North. And it was an amazing program. I want to kind of second what Ryan said, the person two speakers ago. My son also has special needs that we've determined that he needed like sensory seeking while he was at UPK. Sarah and Stacy were pivotal in helping us navigate the care that he needs and figuring out how to best work with him. And then even this year at kindergarten, for his quarterly checkup, Sarah joined and like talked with all the specialists because of how closely she knew his situation. I think that regardless of whether there are private, options available in Croton, it's not comparable to what UPK was for my son. I can't imagine that if he was at private daycare that he would have transitioned into kindergarten in the same way with the understanding of the system and the support that he needs. So I just wanted to come up and say that. And also that, when I moved my 3-year-old into Children's Space North, he was at a different program because of how well it worked for my older son. And now finding out that maybe, that program is shutting down, we're talking about, moving kids from program to program, and that's the impact. I can't think of anything. I understand budgets, there's so much to spend on. I can't think of anything that's more impactful for our community than spending on the UPK. Thanks.
Good evening, my name is Rachel McGregor. I live at 12 Glengarry Road, and thank you to Superintendent Walker and to the board and the team for having us all here tonight. I want to also thank everybody who turned up tonight and is speaking because they've all made all the points that I was thinking about making. So I'm just going to say a couple of things from the financial standpoint. First and foremost, I will say we all agree that preschool education is important. Mr. Walker's response to me in this email, which I have forwarded to the board for your reading pleasure later, that he acknowledges that too, right? We're all in agreement on that. I think we all agree that a budget is a list of priorities of the community, and this community prioritizes education. We also can all agree that all pre-kindergartners eventually become kindergartners. They are part of our K through 12 system, even if it doesn't sound like it when you just say K through 12. I want to point out the numbers that have been discussed tonight because I walked in here thinking we needed to fill a $250,000 gap for these 56 seats. But actually, we've learned a little bit more. Sarah and Stacy pointed out that the state is already contributing $4,860 per student. They have incredibly generously, as is their way, offered to run the program at a break-even of $7,500 per student, whereas the actual cost is really probably more like $10,000. So Sarah and Stacy have given that, and the state has given $4,860. And so when I do the math, it means that the district has to come up with a total of $2,640 per child for 56 children, which is less than $150,000 for this 1-year gap that we're talking about while we talk to the state. So when you think about $150,000 versus turning away all the money that the state's already contributing and the generosity that Sarah and Stacy are already showing by offering that break-even operation of their program. It seems to me that this board, which is making decisions with our tax dollars, can find that shortfall somewhere and must. It's imperative for us to have this UPK program in our community. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm James Nadeau, I live at 50 Hastings Ave. I work for CUNY at the Birmingham Community College in Administration. I want to start by thanking the board and the superintendent, again, for being so responsive to us as we've asked questions and making an effort to address our concerns related to UPK. I spoke on this the last time I was at the board meeting, but I really believe that UPK in Croton is something that we all should be proud of. It's been really incredible for our 4-year-old son. I see him thriving with his classmates and so many of the other students at CHUFSD North and the incredible program that Stacy and Sarah have built. I'm going to talk about some of the things that have already been discussed, but I think they're really important, so I'm just going to talk about them again. Sorry. So I want to talk about the issue of the spots and them not being filled. There are at least 3 families that would have chosen a spot at particularly CHUFSD North if the waitlist system hadn't been so rigid and confusing. If anything, I think this speaks to the need to create a more sustainable, reliable program and not necessarily a lack of interest. I think that's been discussed before, but I think it bears repeating. On the issue of the state budget climate, I'm learning about this process as well. I don't know a ton about state education policy, but I do know that waiting for the state to kick in funding and calling the governor's office and leaving messages is not necessarily going to be super effective. When I think the district here is responsible for serving Croton's children. The investment in early childhood education, I don't need to say it again, everybody knows it's important, the research backs it up. But if we're thinking about long-term funding and budget issues, investing in our youngest kids is only going to lead to benefits down the line and make things easier for K through 12. So I know there's an issue about reducing funding from K through 12. I understand that, and I know it's complicated. I don't think it's a fair comparison though. The Croton budget is enormous. Funding is complex, I understand that, but a couple other parents mentioned this. I think instead of shutting down the conversation, let's talk about it openly. What would we actually have to sacrifice if we were going to fund this program in the short term? What would that look like? Let's talk about it instead of shutting down the conversation from the beginning. I think a lot of us would be willing to learn and to have that conversation. At the very least, we know we had tried. So lastly, I'm going to talk about the unpredictability of the program and the sort of fluctuation year to year. We have the ability to take control of this, right, as a district. The community interest in the program is clearly here, as you can see from everybody who's here tonight. Every single month, young families are moving to Croton to take advantage of our incredible educational system. So I'm hoping that we will, at the very least, continue this program moving forward and ensure that it continues for future children. Okay, thanks.
I'm so sorry, I have a little bit of laryngitis. That's not going to stop me from speaking. My name is Jill Honorado. I live on Van Wyck Street. I have a 6-year-old who is currently a first grader. He went through UPK when it was at Happy Hearts. And my testimony here is just to say, I have a daughter who's at Children's Space. She's in the 3s class. She's thriving there because of Sarah and Stacey and all of the wonderful staff that they surround her with. When my son was at the UPK program at Happy Hearts, his teacher quit within 4 months. And when the assistant teacher asked for a raise because she knew she would be taking over the class, they fired her. We wrote to you guys and you said you had nothing to do with the teachers. A daycare attendant was moved up and taught my son, who still feels like he's lacking in sensory issues and impulse control. And I have to say that for Children's Space to lose the UPK program, again, reiterating, would be a terrible loss to our community.
These women give of themselves every day to our children. They know our children intimately, both in the UPK program and the daycare program. And so I'm just here to say, go team, let's figure this out. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Edwin Atkins. I live at 95 Truesdale. I can echo almost everything that's been said here. I have 2 children, both at Children's Space North, and it is an excellent program. I think, to put it succinctly, it looks to me like Children's Space North is an excellent program. I think almost everyone with any exposure to it agrees on that. The program is substantially but inadequately funded by the state. It seems alarmingly short-sighted to say, oh, we won't chip in the amount needed to top that up, and that number appears to be falling from 250,000 down, and it's some small fraction of 1% of the overall budget for the school system. So it just, I am not an expert in early childhood education, but my mother was. She was an educator and a social worker, and I think it's been known for at least a generation that one of the highest impact investments that the public sector can make in the welfare of its citizenry is this particularly pre-K level of education. That it has been shown almost everywhere in almost every case to be hugely beneficial. To step away from that because the state is not doing it adequately right now, I just think is very unwise. I'm also, honestly, sometimes I come to meetings like this, and I've been to meetings at the village board, where I come to hear about one thing and I discover something else. And what I've learned about now is what sounds like a very concerning and puzzling emphasis on screens in the schools. And I live on Truesdale. We're right next door to a beautiful athletic field, but the district has money to pay for a lot of things. It's paying for ed tech. It's paying for a beautiful, and I think the community should be proud of the sports field it has there. But money is being spent, and a lot of it. But if you can't come up with $100,000 or $200,000 to fund pre-K, I really think the community needs to look at what are the priorities. If the K through 12 budget is so, if it's so strained and resources are so inadequate, it doesn't sound like that from what I'm hearing in this meeting. And so I think this should be much higher on the list of priorities for the district and the community. Thanks.
Hello, my name's Emma Cedar. I live on Wells Avenue. Again, I just want to add my voice to the many people who have spoken tonight and made very compelling points about the need for the UPK funding. I don't need to reiterate all of that. I think it's been made very clear how important this is to so much of the community. I will say I've had the benefit of having my now 3-year-old enrolled in Children's Space since he was 7 months old, and he has thrived in the program. I was reading him a book the other night, and he just started counting in Spanish to me, and I was shocked because I had no idea that was even something they were doing. But it is such a strong program, and so I really do want to add, I was thrilled. My husband and I were like screaming out of excitement when we found out that Children's Space was going to be taking over the UPK program. So I do want to make it clear what a loss it would be to the community to potentially lose that, and specifically a lot of parents here will have their students lose out on that opportunity for next year if we cannot come up with this funding, and that will be a detriment to our children and the community as a whole. So again, I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but I want to make it clear how much support there is for this. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Rice. I have a 2nd grader at CET, and I have a 3-year-old who will hopefully be attending pre-K in September. I just want to add my support to the voices that you've already heard asking that you supplement funding UPK for the upcoming year while working on a legislative solution. Supporting a long-term solution while not supporting a short-term solution would fail 50 kids, and that's like half of our future class of 2039, if I have the math on that right. If we support UPK, that means being personally and locally accountable. And we need this local solution so that we don't have a class of kids that are denied the same educational opportunities as the class before them. Thank you.
So anyone else? I want to thank you all for coming tonight. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We have heard you. You were passionate. There will be more. There will be more discussions regarding this. This is a community and it's an ongoing conversation. Having said that, we're going to move on to the remainder of our meeting. So by all means, stay. But that will close hearing of the public.
Don't go anywhere yet. Let me just speak on this topic for a second.
Yes.
I actually wasn't planning on speaking extemporaneously on this, but I want to share a couple things. I've been a superintendent for 8 years. It feels like longer sometimes. So I've heard hundreds and hundreds of board meetings worth of public comments. And I want to start by saying how appreciative and respectful I am toward everyone who came here tonight to speak on behalf of UPK. And the collaborative nature of the way that you presented that resonates with the people who sit up at this table. So I want to start by saying that to you. It feels a lot like the most challenging conversations we have as school district communities are around topics where we fundamentally agree. And in this case, I think this is one of those. There's no one around this table who doesn't firmly believe in the importance of pre-K, of high quality pre-K. It's part of what makes this school system special. And I know that to be true because this district, behind leadership from this board and others, were one of the first to commit to being part of this program when it was instituted several years ago. Ironically and sadly, that's one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we are, because we now don't have access to some of the higher levels of funding that districts, even those around us who didn't jump as quickly, now have access to, right? So that speaks to a fundamentally broken funding system from the state, as was spoken about many, many times tonight. There are aspects of that that absolutely need to be changed. I don't want us, though, to leave tonight with the idea that somehow there should be a high level of expectation that a year from now the state has fixed this. I've been around state budget funding for a long time, and advocacy for a long time. I'm not getting the sense, to be candid with you, that a year from now we're going to feel as though this has been fixed. So I say that to say that I need you to understand that for those of us who build these budgets, the idea that taking money from the K-12 program to fund anything else, including pre-K, doesn't have an impact on students here would be inaccurate. It does. Like the amount of discretionary funding in a school district, I think would surprise everybody in this room by how little it is. 80% of any budget in school districts is people, and people are programs. Beyond that, you have special education, tuition, transportation, insurance, all of those things. There's a shockingly small amount of discretionary funding in any budget, including ours. So I say that just as some foundational aspects, hopefully, of understanding for the community. I'm not prepared, I think I can speak for everyone around this table, I'm not prepared to admit yet that the only resolution to continuing to provide pre-K in this community is to provide funding for it from the K-12 budget. There are some really creative people, including people around this table, who work in this system. There are other options and creative options that we're looking to explore, but no one's intention is to have the pre-K program erode because of what is a flaw in the state system. So I would say that I know on behalf of the board and the administration, we believe in the importance of it, we're committed to the success of it. We are working incredibly hard to try to figure out a way through this and working with other school districts who are similarly situated and similarly frustrated by what the state's done in terms of failing to live up to its commitment. So to reiterate some of what was heard tonight, this isn't the end of the conversation. It may be only the middle of it. Give us some time to see what we can figure out. If at the end of the story we have an answer that isn't the one you want, we're going to tell you that too. But we're just not prepared yet to come to grips with that idea. I think there are creative solutions to this. And while I don't think it's going to be through necessarily increased state funding in a year, I do hope that by next year we have some creative solutions to this to continue to allow our 4-year-olds access to high-quality pre-K programming without taking money away from the K-12 program. So thank you. And if anyone wants to speak to me further about it, email me. I'm more than happy to set aside time to come in and have you come in and meet with you in groups or one-on-one to talk further about it. But thank you for being here tonight.
Does anybody want to recess? We're gonna take a 5-minute break. I'm sorry, that's very loud.
Action.
Thank you, and we are returning to the December 4th, 2025 meeting of the Croton Hardeman Union Free School District Board of Education. We had left off, we had concluded hearing of the public, agenda item 2.2, and we're moving into item 2.3, the superintendent's report. So, Superintendent Walker.
Thank you, Anna. As I shared at our last business meeting when we were discussing the demonstrated success of our CET students on the New York State English Language Arts Assessment, it is our firm belief as leaders in our system that when you create schools which exemplify an innovative professional culture, genuine interdisciplinary learning, and uplifting faculty-to-faculty collaboration, student achievement as measured in many ways is a result of our students' experiences in these inspiring schools. So tonight, we want to take a few minutes to take a look at some of the more measurable outcomes that our students have achieved over the past few years. We're continuing our look at English language arts performance across our district schools, and tonight, it's PVC's turn. I want to thank Nicole for being here tonight to speak to the work that supports the wonderful success that our PVC students have shown on these assessments. Thank you for being here, Nicole, and for your leadership. This slide shows student proficiency percentages on the New York State English Language Arts Assessment in grades 5 through 8, spanning back to what we would call the pre-COVID era, 2018-19. Scores of 3 or 4 on these assessments demonstrate proficiency, meaning that those students are meeting or exceeding the state standards for that grade level. As a note, all of the data shared here this evening is publicly accessible through the New York State Education Department's data dashboard, and we've linked that website to this presentation if folks want to do some data nerdery themselves. This slide displays that same achievement data in a line graph format. I happen to prefer line graph to bar graph, so that one. This digs deeper into the proficiency percentages by grade level over that same time period. What stands out to me is that in years prior to 2024-25, as good as the percentages were, there were always one or more grade levels with proficiency percentages in the 60s. This past year was the first time that our proficiency percentages in grades 5 through 8 were all solidly in the mid-70s or above, which to me reflects true school-wide improvement in the proficiency of our students, and to me that's noteworthy and should be a point of pride for PVC. This reflects the same data from the prior slide in a format which demonstrates the trajectory of growth as well as the consistently excellent school-wide performance this past year. This slide takes a look at average ELA proficiency in grades 5 through 8 going all the way back to 2012-13. An interesting note for people like me who enjoy this kind of thing, 2013 was the year that New York State adopted the Common Core state standards in ELA, which were designed to be more rigorous and resulted in drops in proficiency across the state. You can see that same drop reflected in our scores between 2012-13 and 2013-14 as well. What's noteworthy to me, and I think probably to everyone about this data, is two things. First, the trajectory of improvement in ELA proficiency in our district over the course of the past few years. And second, that the average ELA proficiency in PVC this past year was the highest that it's been in well over a decade, and likely longer than that, just as far back as we could access the data. That is a fantastic statement to be able to make, similar to the one we were able to make about ELA proficiency at CET, and is a tribute to the leadership, focus, and talent of many people, including the outstanding faculty, staff members, administrators, and families of the PVC community, and of course, to our students who continue to profoundly impress us with what they're capable of achieving. Amongst all this clearly terrific progress, we recognize that we exist in a region within Putnam, Northern Westchester, BOCES that boasts some incredibly high-performing school districts. And the next two slides show where our PVC students' performance in 2024-25 places us amongst that region. So simply for your reference, here's a list of those school districts. This slide shows where our 5th and 6th graders from last year scored relative to the region as well as relative to the New York State average. This slide shows the rankings amongst our region for our 7th and 8th graders last year. In addition to the high rankings displayed here, it was worth noting for me how far above the New York State averages our students scored. 30 points above and 24 points above, respectively, the state's average are extremely impressive performances by the students in those grade levels. Amongst all of this data, there are a few takeaways from my perspective, and some of them are noted here. What I see is a trajectory of improved proficiency over many years, peaking last year when PVC's ELA proficiency was the highest it has been in many, many years. I note that our students' performance by grade level places us strongly among the rest of the highly successful school districts in our region. And as important for me as any other takeaway from this data, the performance across all 4 grade levels last year was consistently strong. We know that when students achieve this kind of increased success, we recognize that it doesn't happen, of course, by accident. And so I'm thrilled to ask PVC Interim Principal Nicole Kelly to speak to some of the ways that PVC has inspired our students to find this kind of wonderful success. Nicole, thank you.
Thank you. This feels like an easy job this evening to talk about something really so very exciting. And my ELA teacher nerd is like really pumped about the whole thing. So we are very proud of our strong academic foundation, the consistent growth, and a multi-year pattern of increasingly strong performance, as demonstrated through the data that Mr. Walker just shared. It's particularly gratifying and reassuring to see that our ELA growth is not isolated to just one cohort, but rather evident across all of our grades. So we attribute that to the PVC behaviors that promote learning and wellness, that show students are building lifelong skills, and passion pursuits are demonstrating how our students are becoming independent and motivated learners. And we believe there's a direct correlation between those and our test results. So we're always striving for consistent work ethic, persistence, and active participation in classroom activities and discussions. At PVC, we are building momentum year over year, and our performance demonstrates the effectiveness of our instructional strategies. Being near the top in the region is certainly a point of pride, and it also sets a benchmark for us to sustain and gives us something clearly to work towards. When we reflect on those benchmarks, it's obviously crucial to celebrate the growth along the way and all the small wins, but we also want to offer explicit and targeted instruction based on our data. And that's something that we've been doing, and I think we're doing a pretty solid job of it. We want to continue to monitor that progress and provide enrichment and or intervention as needed. And at PVC, we are really proud that our students aren't just tested, they're supported. And that means a lot to us. We can attribute a lot of this success to our amazing library and our library media specialists, the use, of course, of evidence-based strategies such as small group instruction, workshop models, professional development around literacy instruction, data, and differentiation. Creating a positive school climate and sense of belonging is our top priority always at PVC. Our teachers, our instructional coaches, our interventionists are empowered to support a systemic investment in literacy, and so this growth is not an accident. We have created a powerful culture of learning, one where students achieve, grow, and discover what interests them. So looking ahead, we'll continue to challenge students while enhancing a strong academic foundation. We will support strong learning habits through practice and consistency, and continue to encourage creativity and passion to help every student take ownership of their learning journey. PVC will enhance thoughtful risk-taking through experiences such as that interdisciplinary work, our co-taught classes, electives, and continue to foster the development of our adolescents to become confident, capable learners who are ready to face challenges and embrace productive struggle in the future. So PVC students aren't just doing well, they're learning how to learn. And we are really proud and really grateful for all of that and the support of all of you to help us continue to do that. So thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, for all this. Question around, has the data informed things that PVC is doing well to reinforce the things that are going on, to do those, continue doing those, and has it shed light on things that maybe the school can improve on that you'd want to undertake?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does both all the time, and I think that's something that we are constantly looking at, and I think that's kind of that necessary cycle of reflection to plan our actions moving forward. I think the addition of our AIS instructors over the last few years has certainly been part of that. So that's definitely something we're taking a look at. I think we're always looking at curriculum, what we're teaching and how we're teaching it and who we're teaching to make sure that we're on that right trajectory for sure.
I just wanted to add from a budgetary perspective, to Nicole's reference, I think it's probably the last 3 years, we've had conversations with the board during the budget process about interventionists and supports at PVC. And that's a credit to the administration at PVC for raising that issue, to making sure that it was prioritized as part of the process. Huge credit to the board for understanding that and supporting it through the budget process. And as we said with CET, when you put in place these kind of foundational aspects, this is the result that you get. So that's a huge kudos to everybody around this table and many others.
So thank you. My question is similar to Omar's. I also thank you for adding the link to the data. I would also ask, because I'm very much a data nerd, if there's particular links to particular studies you're pulling the data from, to add it for each slide, so that we can really dig into the data. So I was curious because like Omar, I love your question, and that was a very helpful answer. It seemed to me from your answer, you were focused more on like what's in this wheel in terms of like, the supports and like from a programmatic structure. I was curious, and maybe you don't have the answer for it, but is like, if you look at the actual topics that within the test, are there areas where there's some themes? Like, I'm just thinking about, like, for example, I teach at the college level, and I find that like reading stamina and especially like is a thing. So I'm wondering if like off the top of your head, you feel like there's any areas that you're like, you know what, I feel like we may move on, but this is an area that we'd like to like get a little bit deeper into, or like vocabulary, because sometimes as a parent you're listening to like, okay, this is the program and the resource, but like, okay, my kid brings this home, what is the thing that I should be thinking about, in this topic that we should be,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that definitely is the case. I think that varies much more cohort to cohort, opposed to, looking at that overall. It depends very much on the year. It depends on the standard. And I think that's something that we as educators are looking at too, in terms of which areas need to be further addressed, or how are we meeting that need from a curriculum standpoint. So I think that varies. I think it often comes down to that critical thinking, those baselines of just that comprehension and the various points of that. Stamina is a big piece. We're up against a lot of challenges and a lot of distractions. So we actually were having a conversation with 5th grade ELA teachers today about ways to build stamina and use that marathon analogy as to how we can continue to train for all of that. And so I think that's something that's definitely on our horizons. Yeah, of course.
So building upon the previous few questions, I haven't looked at the data in detail, but I know one of the things that we do have information on is how students with disabilities have performed and how that has changed over time, how students who are English language learners have changed over time. I'm wondering what the data show with regard to those sub-cohorts that we are, we're also supposed to be focused on in our work.
Yeah, it was pretty strong too. I don't have it in front of me to speak to it, but yeah, they were reassuring. We did look carefully at those. Yeah, they were consistent. They were consistent. We can pull the numbers for you and share them for sure.
I think Rachel shared some of that on a broader level at the last work session as well. And I think we saw, if I'm remembering right, the proficiency from our students with special needs cohort was 5th in the region last year. So again, really, really solid performance.
So I just think that if it doesn't take too much time, as we have other presentations on math and on ELA, that might also be just an additional slide, so we know that if there are issues or concerns that we need to think about from a policy or programmatic or budgetary, and we'll kind of have that info.
I just want to say, I'm only, beginning to really start to deeply know the literacy program at PVC, over the past month. But of course, over the span of 8 years, I've gotten to dip in and look. And I think one of the real things that celebrates the strength of the program is that literacy is always tied to affect. right? The better reader you're going to be is when you are motivated in the classroom through what text you're encountering. And so much has been going on in an age where a lot of literacy has been based around a stress of informational text, of nicely balancing informational text, especially right now through the interdisciplinary works of humanities, through social studies teachers and English teachers carefully pairing thematically a high interest text, but really also stress on real relevant fictional texts that have social relevance, that are deeply tied to human conditions that really are relatable to the middle level learner. And I think that the work of those teachers, both social studies and English teachers, to really consider what is going to turn on the emotions is getting them to want to engage in literacy, to want to engage in text. And I think that that's ultimately got to affect their ability to engage with text and then perform. So I attribute a lot to the real creative work of teachers in terms of really developing some engaging middle level programs.
I was actually going to second that. Sorry, Allison. I was just going to actually second that, John, because I think as a parent who's just recently gone through 2 students at PVC, what we're also seeing is that the curriculum has now moved towards also these like set experiences, like 5th grade is the year that you're going to read this book. And it's starting to become actually part of our district's culture, that like these are like the books that are the modern classics, but they're representative, they are exactly what you said, they are timely, and they relate to, I think, contemporary issues, or like put a lens on contemporary issues in a way that is actually making those connections between ELA and social studies specifically, which again, when we talk about interdisciplinary learning, it's like, it's been going on for a long time, but these are really concrete examples. And I think also just this idea of sort of like the continuity, it's like we are now sort of like, we're demonstrating that there is like a shared culture of like what students who go through PVC are going to experience in terms of their reading. And those sort of like benchmark moments of like, this is the year that we read X, this is the year, and I know what the books are, but I won't go with my passion for that stuff. So I think that does sort of like, it reflects exactly what we're talking about, which is also this idea of reading fiction specifically, and reading these longer form texts, which, it's like, it isn't part of our habit. And I think really here at the middle school, like it becomes part of the habit is to do that sort of marathon reading together collectively in the classroom and at home. And this is the impact of it. So I think it is great to see. I also want to highlight Steve's point from earlier about sort of identifying what was needed in terms of the AIS, because I think to be able to connect like our budgetary, our funding towards like specific needs and then see the results of like that decision within 3 years, that feels like the right thinking, right? So I think as a board, I think everyone would agree, it's like, this is what we need to hear from you, is like, what's the opportunity, and, how can the budget actually fill that educational opportunity? That feels like a really good success story. So thank you for bringing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to jump off of John's statement.
Oh, no. That was great. So it builds on like what I was thinking about it too. So I really love like what you were talking about, like in terms of the choice of the text, engaging the students in an authentic way, and also the interest in fiction. And I was just thinking like, in terms of continuing the dialogue about this, like Omar and I were on the technology committee. And we heard, conversations today earlier for feedback from the public about the community's questions about screen time, things like that. So I'm also curious, maybe at some point we can have like an informal conversation about not only like what are the texts, but like what is the mode that the students are like consuming or like reading, like, because I'm just thinking about I know with my children, like they had a very different experience reading from a digital device than actually picking up a book. And my kids had different, so one child actually like being like, wow, I can sit with a book, really change their engagement, not just with the content, but just like with their love and their pursuit of the skill. So if there's any like even informal observation as we go through, I'm like, I think that would be a really valuable thing to hear about.
Yeah,
thank you.
I just want to add, because I came like floating on clouds after our building planning council meeting today, just to kind of like dive into the culture at PVC. and what makes a successful middle school, which I'll touch upon later, but I think, and I think it's a testament to so much of the care that's given to making sure that students feel comfortable, that they feel comfortable in the classroom, that they feel comfortable with their teachers, that they feel comfortable amongst their peers. So I just want to congratulate you guys on reaping the benefits of all your hard work, or our students actually reaping the benefits of all that hard work, and it all coming together as a culture. I don't think it was one thing in particular. I think it was a lot of things working right at the same time. And also a lot of things working that reach different students different ways, right? That make an extra effort to reach each student. So thank you. Thank you, and thank you.
Worth the wait, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, just a quick reminder, at the next business meeting, the January business meeting, we'll invite the high school administration here and engage in a similar discussion around those assessment scores and demands.
Look forward to that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I love these. So moving into item 2.4, student ex officio trustee report. Melanie Parker, take it away.
All right, so we had our SFC meeting today. We had a pretty exciting meeting. So the main thing we discussed today was the now finalized Board of Ed and ex-SFC support proposal. I have a copy here. We made a couple amendments to it during the meeting today, but for the most part stayed pretty consistent. So I know we've already talked about this, but the main purpose is to provide, it's a couple things. So it's to provide consistent support to me and to the following student liaisons who are gonna, come in years, to make increased communication between the Board of Ed and the student body, to offer student faculty Congress members opportunities to partake in educational discussions and get a feel for what this position is, and to understand better district operations and build leadership and advocacy for student faculty Congress members. So we settled that we're going to have, in the proposal, that we're going to have everyone attend, every student faculty Congress member attend at least one meeting. We're going to do 2 members per meeting, just in because of the amount of meetings we have and the amount of student faculty Congress members we have. So we have a rough draft of what the example sign-up will look like. So we're going to have a Google Sheet spreadsheet, which is going to be ran by the executive secretary, which is Yannick, and myself. And so we're going to write all the meeting dates, the times, the places, and then if I can look at the agenda and see just write brief agenda points about what meetings, so that way if students are this particular thing really piques my interest, they can attend that certain meeting. So the example sign sheet here is basically, it's going to look something like, there's going to be 3 columns. There's going to be the group, so the pair, the meeting that they attended, whether it was a committee or if it was a work meeting, and then just a couple of bulleted notes about what they believe to be most important or what they wanted to specifically talk to, bring back to SFC. Mr. Haber brought up a good point that these meetings, so the committee meetings often take place during school hours, and so we were talking with Congress as if we ran out of time this meeting, but we were talking about maybe if there was something we could do with Congress and the Board of Ed, if there are our kids who really want to come to committee meetings, if there's some way we can maybe work around that or have some meetings that would take place after school or something like that for people that are particularly interested. Also, I think it's very important to acknowledge that one of our board goals this year is elevating student voices, not only through board governance, but also through policy making and advocacy, and inviting greater student participation throughout the board. And I think this is a prime example of one of the ways this could be happening, and a direct connection to the board goal. So that pretty much summarizes this. As I said, we amended it. We're going to have the finalized printed version by next meeting, which is 2 weeks from now. Another part of the another thing we talked about in relation to the Board of Ed at the meeting today was the potential for the staggered senior and junior Board of Ed ex officio student liaison. And we were just kind of pulling interest on that. Again, we did run out of time this meeting. I was going to talk about it during our new biz section, but And so from what it sounds like though, a lot of, at least from the student and Congress standpoint, everyone's very interested in that idea. And I know I was talking to Anamika about it. But yeah, so there is a lot of like people that would like that and to participate in that, which would also help with our board, one of our board goals this year, and also it would help the students get more interested and involved. Moving away from that, just a quick update on.
Before you do, I just want to add one thing, because I was at.
You wait till the end and just let it go.
No, but it has to do specifically with this, and it's really for the board, very quickly, that with regard to committee meetings, right, we talked about the fact that SFC representatives may want to attend certain meetings.
Correct.
So what I think is important for us to do when we schedule committee meetings and have agendas for those meetings, that we provide those agendas specifically to Student Faculty Congress so that they'll know what's on the agenda and will know whether it's something that is of interest.
We'll coordinate.
Right, I'm just saying, we talked about that and they were, I think, receptive to that.
Yeah, everyone also thought that was everyone also thought, sorry, I'm kind of loud enough. Everyone also thought that was a good idea and liked that as well. So a little unrelated from the Board of Ed, but just a quick update on SFC in general. We're planning our ping pong tournament, it's in motion. We've had, every year we do for the winner, they have a gift card, so we have had 2 of our members go out and start reaching out to businesses for gift cards. We're going to set the tentative date soon. Usually we try to do it between winter and spring sports so that kids, it doesn't get involved, like, because the gym gets pretty busy during basketball season and everything. So yeah.
Are you inviting board members to play?
If anyone here wants to show off, I guess. Pretty competitive.
Show off.
That's true.
Pretty competitive Congress. But yeah, and then also we've been talking about creating a suggestion box. We've had a suggestion box, but doing it in a more direct way to get more outreach from students. So we drafted a Google form asking about any suggestions or concerns students have with extracurricular technology classroom issues, and we're gonna send it out during chat, just to try to get more student involvement. So yeah, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
So you are moving stuff forward.
Yeah.
You are moving stuff forward, and this is impact, so thank you.
That's right, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Because this all sounds great. I just wasn't there. Can this get started for students to start coming in, like when can they start coming? And
Yeah.
I wasn't sure like what like we have to vote or they can just come. Yeah, next steps.
It's in your court, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna literally make the sheet sometime by the end of this week. We're gonna draft all of that stuff. Me and the secretary are gonna work together, and we're gonna get the ball rolling ASAP.
That's great, because also I was just thinking like coming up like after the new year, there's all the presentations about like for the budget prep, and that's really a great way to learn very specifically about different things that are happening.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be happening.
And just to be clear, the December work session is an exec session for
We don't need to
personnel.
talk about that.
So it'll start in January.
Board development is going to be helping, like we've been charged with helping with just like populating the key points of the calendar just to address both those questions. And so we'll be sharing that information so that Bill doesn't have to go through like last year's calendar to guess. We're going to make that right. We're providing that.
But I just do want to commend how you've gotten this rolling, because this is something that student beneficiaries have said in prior years, and there has been some loss of momentum, so that you're taking it on and that you've got it going, and people are going to sign up. We'd love to see SFC reps here and take questions from them or hear what they have to say at the podium, so thank you.
I really do want to just commend 2 of our members though. It was Layla and Georgia who drafted this up, so I just wanted to shout out to them because they typed up this whole thing. I mean, me and Yannick were working with them, but it really was them too, so I just want to give credit where credit's due.
That's great. Thank you. We are going to move into item 3.1, instructional personnel resignation. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Crow County Union Free School District hereby accepts the resignation of John Griffiths, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, for the purpose of retirement effective at the close of business on June 30th, 2030. I'm sorry, June 30th, 2026. All in favor?
Someone's gonna move it.
Or we could just not move it.
We can. I mean, I'm botching this.
So moved.
Wait, can he do that?
No.
So I'll move it, so moved.
I'll second it.
On the question. I mean, I will say that when I read this, despite the fact that I knew this was going to happen, I had to pick up the phone and just say to John, I think I said to you last meeting that I always think of you as the voice of like the omniscient narrator in some ways. You have left your mark on our district, and I hope you will not go far. So it's sad that we are accepting your resignation. We're very happy for you. And I'm glad that we still get the rest of the year here. Yes, thank you for everything you've done here.
13 more meetings after today.
Well, first off, we may have a special meeting. I wanted to say one other thing, and I know this, it's not like eulogies yet, but it's always when somebody mentions like a eulogy.
Trying to retire before the year.
But one of the things that I really appreciate, John, is that when you spoke about things like you did tonight, about the PVC scores, there's a depth of knowledge and a depth of understanding and kind of how to connect the practice to things that are very, I'll put it, empathetic towards what we are doing and towards our students that I think comes through frequently. And I appreciate that because that grounds us in a way. We're not just data-driven, we're not just emotion-driven, we're passion-driven, but we're really for that. And that's, I've appreciated greatly over the years.
I just want to say, for mine, obviously, we'll have a chance to celebrate you and maybe roast you a bit more in the spring, but on a personal and professional level, to get a chance to come to work every day with somebody as thoughtful, as caring, as kind, as dedicated, as student-centered, and as compassionate.
Yes, start that over.
As you are is a gift, right? And to have that person become a friend and a part of my life in such a significant way is a remarkable thing. So on a personal level, I want to say thank you, and from the systems end, we're better, profoundly better for the time you spent here. So,
I'll give you a hug.
All in favor?
Now on to tax certiorari.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into new business, item 4.1, the tax certiorari, recommended action be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the proposed settlement for the tax certiorari of the matter of Scott Truman and J.D. Guan v. the Town of Portland et al. As presented.
So moved. Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 4.2, recommended action be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District authorizes and approves the agreement for the installation and operation of internal safety equipment between Croton Harmon Union Free School District and Bus Patrol America, LLC.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Was Denise going to tell us a little bit before the question?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not, right, oh, there I am. You are. So back in September of 2024, the district, along with Westchester County and Bus Patrol, entered into an agreement for the stop arm camera safety program. Those are for the external cameras. So that was approved in September of '24. As a part of that program, we were offered the opportunity to have the installation of internal bus cameras as well, the non-enforcement cameras. Though we currently have cameras installed in our buses now, they are aging out and failing rather quickly. So the opportunity to have the free installation of new cameras in our buses was very appealing. However, we had to work out some issues, some contractual issues. It was a boilerplate contract with Bus Patrol. So over the last 3 months or so, we've met with our attorneys, Bus Patrol, Transportation Department, our policy committee, our tech committee for data privacy to resolve some questions that we had about the program and data privacy and student security and so forth. So over the last 4 months, we've accomplished that and now have a very unique internal camera agreement with Bus Patrol, and that's what we're asking the board to approve this evening. So another caveat to that was that if we wanted the internal cameras, we had to simultaneously install them. So we had to, which is why we have not yet installed the external cameras, because we were waiting to resolve this. So that's where we are now.
Is there anything you can say about the uniqueness of it? I mean, just to give us, because we've had an ongoing conversation, but for anyone who might, just be learning about cameras for the first time tonight.
Right, so we had some issues with the indemnities that we wanted to raise a little bit, data privacy, ownership of the footage.
Right.
So initially, we thought that it was owned by Bus Patrol, and we wanted also to, though we knew that they had it temporarily, we wanted to ensure that the only individuals that were able to view the footage were vetted and met our standards and so forth, so items like that.
Right.
Do you remember the total cost if we didn't take, because I remember you gave us I don't mean to be on the spot, but we were talking about just what a huge value it was to the district to get these all upgraded at no cost.
Yeah, it's, in the tens of thousands, probably 30,000+.
I just wanted to say thank you for all of your work on this, because I know this was a priority and something that we had advocated for with regard to the stop arm cameras. And so in working to ensure that we had a contract that we all feel good about with regard to the privacy concerns. So thank you for all
It's
your
been
work.
a long.
Yeah, I know it's been a lot of work. So.
And a lot of work on behalf of everyone, not just myself.
I just wanted to echo that because, I know we had people come, actually it was at a health and safety meeting last community meeting.
This was community driven, right?
Where community said, don't do this if you don't have those protections in there. And so the administration went back and looked at the boilerplate contract that was presented and said, you know what, we need to have those protections. And from at least my review of it, those protections are there, particularly the ownership of the videos and the access only to very limited Bus Patrol vetted persons. Otherwise, the only ones who can see it are district officials, all of whom, both Bus Patrol and the district, are covered by the privacy provision, data privacy provisions of Federal R2D. So to the greatest extent possible, we are protecting the privacy of the students who may be seen on that interior camera footage and the exterior camera footage as well.
So, I thank everything for what you've done, and I think you put in the district, there's been a tremendous amount of effort about this. I'm going to vote against this, and it has nothing to do with what you've done. I think you've done as much as possible to protect our district. My just general concern is about the increased collection of biometric information that can be used to identify people. So,
this is not in a statement of all the effort and work that you've done, but just more that I'm concerned about the general direction of surveillance in general in our world. We see what's happening politically and how this information can, even if it's just a couple of people and that have access to it, how it can invariably have a very negative impact if it falls into the wrong hands. So I just want to be clear, I'm going to vote no, but it's not a testament to the strong work you've been doing to really do this everything you can to protect your district.
I will also say, they use AI too, but the AI function looks at object permanence and movement. So if there are objects that are triggered by the stop arm camera, then once 3 or 5 metrics are achieved, then it records it. But there's no facial recognition involved in the system whatsoever.
Right, yeah. I will say for me, just thinking back to what Neil said about where this started in terms of health and safety, for me this has been an advocacy issue actually since before I was on the board. And in this community, the concern, we know the reality is that the stop arm camera itself serves but more than anything else, it serves as a deterrent. It serves as a deterrent in terms of speeding. It's something that across the board, our legislators have been advocating for, our county legislator, our village trustees, our bicycle and pedestrian committee. It has been a long, long road to get to this point. We are now going to be actually in line with other neighboring districts who were able to take on this program earlier. And in this case, I will say we did do the due diligence, and we were very responsive to shared concerns about data privacy, because I think that is, as Allison said, it is upfront and it is like an ongoing issue. But I think the fact that we took the time to come up with an agreement that actually, that satisfies the concerns and the obligations of the district while also providing a increased measure of security for our kids, where we have people walking and crossing the street all day long, and people whizzing past these buses all day long. I can't thank you enough I know, because I feel like I've been a real pain about this, because I bring it up all the time for a year. It's been 2 years of me asking you to check in about it, and I know it's been a really, really long time, but I am very, very grateful. I want to say that our community is very, very grateful as well, because there's so many people who've written to us and talked to us about when are we going to get these, why does everybody else have them, and it was hard to explain. It's it's been hard to explain the delay, but I think the delays were all for the right reasons, and I'm really grateful that we're going to have it. So thank you, Denise.
Well, thank you for your persistence.
Safety is my jam, right?
Sorry, can I just ask a technological question with regard to data storage? Is there any cloud storage involved in this, or because I see reference to terabyte drives and all of that, so I wasn't sure whether.
Right, so we have drives on our buses that are accessible through the cloud at bus patrol. So in other words, if our hard drive on the bus goes down, we have 30 days worth of storage at bus patrol that we can access. So yes.
Okay. So that means that essentially the data, it goes from bus to cloud to then access at the bus patrol, whatever.
Yes.
And only by, is it bus patrol management has access for the contract?
Limited individuals at bus patrol, yes.
That was always the concern. The concern was that it wasn't housed in district. So that was all of the work that has been done on that is because that was the initial community concern.
Got it.
And that's the interior of the bus where there are students.
Right.
The exterior of the bus where people are in the public, we don't have the same requirements necessarily. Right.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Moving into ongoing business, item 5.1, policy for second reading, recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby conducts a second reading and adopts policy 5550, student privacy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I know we discussed this policy at some length at our last business meeting and at the policy committee meeting on November 18th, we discussed the policy again, made some refinements to the policy, responding to the comments that were made by the board at the November business meeting. There was one area that we received some community comment from and board member questions, some of which I think may have been alluded to by Allison in our previous discussion. I just wanted to bring this forth so everybody understands what that provision is, where it comes from, why it is included in this policy. And that specifically is the last substantive section called Biometric Identifying Technology, including facial technology, going back specifically to questions of data privacy and that Allison alluded to. The two paragraphs that are set forth that say the district will not utilize, this is for members of the public in case anyone doesn't have the text, the district will not utilize any biometric identifying technology for any purpose, including for school security purpose, with respect to any student, except to the extent that the use of such biometric identifying technology is specifically authorized by law. And then the second paragraph defines biometric technology and biometric information. Some questions were raised whether there is, if you will, an exception that is large enough to drive a truck through because, colloquially, because it says that to the extent that the use of such biological identifying technology is specifically authorized by law. To give the background, this language is taken directly from Section 106B of the state technology law, which is entitled Use of Biometric Identifying Technology in Schools, and addresses this issue. By law, we could not use those biometric technologies even if we did not have a policy. But there's a little more to the story. The law establishes two specific, special circumstances in which a school district may use biometric technology. Fingerprint identification of prospective school employees were utilized for the purpose of compliance with a provision of the education law or regulations of the Commissioner of Education, namely fingerprinting of employees that we do before we hire anybody, and to exclusively identify employees who have consented in writing to the use of such technology, or in the case of employees represented under Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, where the employee organization representing such employee has consented in writing to the use of such technology. That generally relates to things like the use of biometric identifying technology for time clocks, whether it's going to be a fingerprint or an iris scan, as some clocks, time recording systems utilize, and something of that nature. Mind you, that was just employees. The law says, as adopted, that it will be in effect until 2022, July 1st, 2022, or until the Commissioner issues a ruling, an order, with respect to what biometric identifying technology might be used by a district. And the Commissioner, and a report was done by the State Division of Information and Security Technology, I think it's called, pursuant to the law, and the Commissioner in 2023, September 2023, issued an order in which the Commissioner said, you may not use facial recognition technology in any school. But the commissioner said that it will be left to the local district to decide whether it desired to use other forms of biometric identification technology, such as fingerprinting, iris scans, or whatever, if it wanted to do so. And the commissioner said, in determining if it wants to do so, schools must consider privacy implications, the impact on civil rights, the effectiveness of the tool, and parental input. By adopting this policy, we are saying, if we do adopt it, we do not want to use any of those other technologies. Okay? Unless, of course, at some point we change our mind, i.e. change this policy. So, for student identification, for anything involving students, this policy would prohibit their use in, with regard to students. And it is our understanding from what we've been told by administration that such biometric identification technology is not used in the district at this point in time. There is one additional point to bring in mind which may go into the issue of whether there has been a specific authorization. There's a bill in the state legislature adopted, passed by the state senate, not yet considered in the state assembly, that would add to that list of 2 items, one additional item, which would be, if it is adopted, fingerprint identification of teachers, administrators, and students for the purpose of securely logging into a digital device for academic and administrative purposes. If the state legislature adds that to Section 106B, that would mean that that specific authorization to use a fingerprint to open up your laptop, whether it's a student, faculty, administrator, would be permitted under this policy, which once again doesn't mean that the district is going to purchase those devices that have that security, but it means that that would fit into that exception. So really what we are doing in adopting this policy is doing nothing more than stating what the law is presently under Section 106B of the state technology law. And this does not implicate any other use out there in the world of facial recognition in, through whatever other devices or other forms that are not related to what the district does. So I wanted to make that, obviously there may be questions, but I want to make that clear to say what we're not doing and what the floodgates we're not opening up.
So I think, Neil, I had some questions about this too, because there were some follow-ups that we hadn't gotten to at the policy committee meeting, and Neil did a very great job of explaining this to me at length last night because I did have some questions. And one of the things that I wanted to just clarify, Neil, just to make sure that I understood what we talked about accurately is, so for example, the example that you're using of the legislation that right now has gone through the state senate but hasn't gone through the assembly and is therefore not law, relates to devices that we already have, like in our district, devices that operate via fingerprint. But what we also have is a practice right now, and I don't know if it's covered by policy, that we are actually, all of those features are actually disabled in our devices within our schools at the moment. So if for some reason, like the legislation was to change, we wouldn't be in a situation where we had to rush to address and revisit this policy because of what our current practices are right now. We are not, on our school-enabled, like our school-issued devices, fingerprint identification and any other form of like biometric data capture identification to unlock your device, it's not, that feature is not enabled on any of our devices, is what we have been told, and our director of technology has confirmed that. So one of the things that I was concerned about when I spoke to Neil about this was like, if this legislation is actually like potentially on the table, will we have to like then leap to address this because like this thing passes? And it sounds like because of our current practices, we would not have to do that.
I don't think we would have to.
Right.
Because we could, as a matter of our own, I mean, the only policy would be, okay, if we decide as a board, if this legislation passes,
right,
then we just don't want anybody to use fingerprint identification for purposes of opening up a digital device. I think we would probably want at that point to revise this policy to say you can only use it for number one and number two.
Right.
Okay? Or we might decide that we don't have a problem with unlocking that identification system because it's really not going to provide data that might be, that might be kind of taken over by somebody else.
Well, so that's
really
where we disagree.
Well, I'm saying
Data will
it
be
might.
taken to somebody else.
I'm saying it
Yeah,
might,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's for us
yeah.
to discuss.
Right.
And as a board, us or a future board to determine. Or we could just not turn it on.
Right.
And if we don't turn it on,
it becomes moot.
It's a moot, it's a moot point. If the administration says, hey, they changed the law, we want to use this,
Then we discuss.
then we discuss. And keep in mind, and I don't know, because Ellen is not here, whether we can turn on that identification mode on existing devices that are held by faculty and staff. So that, rather than just every device, whether you can say, okay, faculty and staff, if you want to use it, you can let us know, but students, you can't use it. Because, but that's something we would discuss down the road. The discussion down the road if this legislation passes, or somebody adds something else.
Right.
It may well be that other districts that have the authority now from the commissioner's order to use fingerprint identification for open digital devices or something else involving iris scans or fingerprint ID or whatever, they may be doing it. Doesn't mean we have to do it.
Right. Okay, thanks,
So I want to thank you for the very detailed explanation to help clarify this. And I know what I'm about to say is problematic in some ways, but I'm going to proceed. So the way it's written is specifically authorized by law. It sounds like it's accurate, based on your explanation. And it also, the benefit to it is that it's evergreen, like this discussion right now. To me, the challenge with this is that this is also going to be the basis, I think, upon which parents are making some decisions. And they're like, I think people looking at this, it's like, what law? And so we got some detailed letters, which were very helpful, and alluded to like some of this confusion about this. So I'm wondering, and I understand the downside to this, is there a way to name the specific law, or at least say New York State law or something, so somebody
actually is,
because it's too hard for most people to understand that, because when I read it, I think we're letting ourselves out to do like whatever, but the way you described it is a lot more responsible, I feel, as somebody who's a Luddite with data privacy.
So I will, and I know they do this at Student Faculty Congress. May I propose a friendly amendment? And then go back to the person who made the motion And I say, yeah, sure, you can do that. So why, if we could change the word law to Section 106B of the state technology law to make it clearer, and it's an appropriate point.
And then we'll get a flag whenever section, what is it?
106.
Changes or is amended?
Well, it's stuff that we're following. It's like, this is, and we do get alerts from NISBA and from.
But that's my problem actually with the specificity of it, because you run into situations when things are amended and are not necessarily amended, they're impacted by something else. And if you're looking at the totality of the law, that's very different than aligning with a specific statute.
Well, the statute says, and this is where the specificity probably should have been in what we proposed. The statute says, except as authorized in paragraph B of this subdivision, you cannot use. So if we in essence track that language, paragraph B of section 2A of section 1 of, section 106B, then we're saying that's specifically what this law tells us we can do. Okay?
Track the language of that citing the law. So extract the language from that subsection and insert it.
Well, yeah, except you have to cite it because if the law changes, right, they had this thing about the fingerprinting, right? That's there. The only way to do it is to put in the two current exceptions,
Yes.
right? Fingerprint identification, and so on.
Which is what the question was, because I think that was the genesis of my question, which was, like in reading the policy, you very kindly did that extra, you had the knowledge and shared that research about like what it specifically applied to, but to Allison's point, the layperson reading it isn't going to necessarily know that in fact the law only at this moment allows fingerprinting of staff, right? It's like, because it's not implicit in the policy. And I think in terms of our efforts, like make policies easier to understand, this is why I think we're raising the question.
But I think in terms of making the policy easy to understand, you're making it easier to understand if you copy the language as opposed to a particular statute that requires you to jump into something else, which may or may not change and we may or may not be tracking. Whereas we have autonomy over our own policy. So if the language is delineated in that policy to specifically include the language that uses the two exclusions, you don't have to track something else with respect to that.
Well, actually, let me throw something out that's even a little simple. What we have written, because this is a policy called student privacy, okay? At the moment, the items number 1 and number 2 that I read deal with employee privacy. They don't deal with student privacy. So right now, there is nothing that is in the exceptions that applies to students. So it might just be easier to just put a period. We just won't use them with respect to any student. Now, okay?
Yeah.
And I can go along with that, understanding that we will then be in a situation that if this proposed legislation passes, right, then we will have the opportunity to revisit, okay, do we want to allow students to use, when they have their iPads or Chromebooks or district-issued devices, use that fingerprint technology? And we'll cover that. Keep going off. We'll cover that on another day.
Maybe it knows something.
I think this is a great example for anyone who's not on the policy committee to know what we do for multiple hours.
Okay.
Before we go back.
So, So that first paragraph would read,
This is it.
Blanket.
You're missing this.
Blanket.
You miss me now, right?
Right.
I miss you. I do
the
miss you.
district will not utilize any biometric identifying technology for any purpose, including for school security purposes, with respect to any student.
Period.
Period.
Thank you.
And we'll make that change.
Thank you, Neil.
A friendly amendment? Yes,
It's
you all
super
like it.
friendly.
Super friendly, and that way we'll deal with this later if we ever have to.
Which was always the plan, to deal with it later if we had to. It's just, I think it's cleaned up, and I think this is why I love policy so much. I love it.
I do miss it. I'm not gonna lie.
You think so, but you've seen the meetings. I love it.
What did I miss? Yeah, repeat it.
What'd you miss, right?
Yep. Taking those out?
Yes.
All right.
They deal with employees.
For the magic we had.
It was magic.
All in favor?
So all in favor as
All
amended?
in favor
As
friendly amended?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving into item 6.1, approval of the consent agenda.
Sweet. We skipped
Oh,
I'm thinking.
oh my gosh, yes, we did. Item 5.2, 2025-2026 Board of Education goals. This is a discussion. I will cede the microphone to the Board Development Committee and Chair, spokesperson.
Chair. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, I wanted to get this, I'm glad we're able to talk about this while our student ex officio rep is in the room, because it is in part her advocacy and highlighting of these issues for the board that has actually shaped one of the goals that we're going to talk about. So thank you, Phil, for hanging in there on like what might become one of the longest meetings ever. This is up on the screen so folks can see it. I know hopefully folks at home can see it. We discussed our goals we had an initial discussion of our goals at our work session on October 30th. And during that conversation surfaced a lot of ideas that the Board Development Committee was tasked with distilling into 3 to 4 clearly defined actionable goals. It's very important to us in terms of our practice that we've developed over the last couple of years to ensure that following the model of the district, we're establishing multi-year goals. And what that means is that they're not necessarily going to be accomplished by the end of the year. Some of them are going to be carried over. We have the opportunity to sort of articulate these. As a board, we don't adopt the goals formally. We don't actually need to do that. We need to actually establish them and then start working on them and then measure as part of our own evaluation process how well we did, what else we need to do to be able to accomplish them, et cetera. So this is an opportunity for us to sort of take a look at how board development has crystallized these goals. These were shared with you, I know, very late last night, so I'm just going to quickly state them because I think that needs to be, people who are listening at home or are sitting far away from the screen might not be able to see the tiny letters. So where we landed in terms of this discussion is with the following 4 goals. Number 1, to establish an annual schedule of work sessions to serve as checkpoints into new district and building initiatives and to assess programs periodically. This essentially is charging us with taking a longer view of work sessions and providing as a board a little bit more input into what we want to see and what we want to be able to understand as a board in order to make our governance and budgeting decisions. Number 2, continue our learning and undertake professional development on key issues in K-12 education, particularly artificial intelligence and data privacy, in order to develop responsive and responsible board policies. As you know from the discussions we've been having, we've identified AI and data privacy as the top 2 policy concerns. These issues keep coming up, and so we called those out specifically, but our charge to ourselves is to continue to educate ourselves formally, informally, through professional development, through readings, through attending conferences, through seminars and trainings on these topics so that we can write policy that is actually proactive and protects our students and our staff and our educational system. Number 3, elevate student voice in board governance, policy making, and advocacy by inviting greater student participation at presentations, at Board of Education meetings, establishing student liaisons to select district and board committees. This is something that has already happened in terms of district committees, but it's a work in progress on board committees, and determining whether to expand the current student ex officio role to 2 positions. As I said, this is a goal that we've developed as a board in collaboration with our student ex officio trustee, and I think it is actually her passion for getting involved in policy conversations and a passion for advocacy that allowed us to sort of elevate those specific points and make it part of the goal. So thank you, Phil, for speaking up and helping us see the value and demonstrating it by your actions. Number 4, continue to review existing measures that assess student performance and college and career readiness, particularly as they relate to the state's New York Inspires plan and revised portrait of a graduate. We know that this question of assessing performance and assessing student outcomes is a crucial function of the board, and one of the things that we have continued to talk about over the last couple of years is our recognition that the state's portrait of a graduate has evolved, and in order for us to serve our students, we need to be having these conversations about assessment and evaluation in like direct conversation with, in fact, the state portrait of a graduate and what the state's plan is for education in the state and in our district. So it's marrying those things a little bit more closely together, and then to sort of figure out how we're going to, and then actually do, begin these evaluations in public meetings, because that's our function. Last 2 quick things are, we've had so many goals and so many ideas, we realized we can't establish all of them as board goals. So at our work session, the board decided to assign 2 of our priorities to specific committees. The Communications Committee has been asked to evaluate overall communications with the community through surveys and other mechanisms that they'll determine and report back to the full board on the same. I know that this is work actually that has been underway, but articulating it as a goal gives it visibility to us and to the community. It's not something that, it's not like a new goal. It is actually like a multi-year goal. It's been an ongoing goal, but it's now articulated formally. And the reporting, I think, is an important piece as well. Finally, sorry, I'm trying to talk fast. The board also asked the Board Development Committee to review current board committee structures, meaning the committees that are operated by the Board of Education, not the district committees, and to prepare recommendations for consideration by the full board on whether we have the right ones or whether there's something we want to change. Also to draft protocols across our current committees in service of greater transparency and accountability, so that all of our subcommittees are operating in a standard way, so that again, things are clear to us internally and things are clear to the community. This is something that has been part of our governance mandate for the last couple of years, and it takes time to move all this stuff forward, but we're well positioned to do that. So that is my presentation, and thank you to my colleagues on board development for their input in sort of helping to shape these and also refine them further, and for your guidance all the way through the process, because it is a group effort on everyone's part. Open up for questions, and there's no motion, so we'll open it up for questions or commentary.
Yeah.
Before we do just to close it, just before we do a thumbs up, thumbs down on whether these goals overall meet, overall reflect our discussion, because they are, that is what the intention is to reflect our discussion.
Yeah, so I want to start by thanking all of you on this colossal effort and taking it on and kind of deviating from practices that we've had in place in the past, having a full, robust, open discussion at a board meeting. I want to thank the administration, because some of this is modeled on what we've heard you all do in developing the vision map. So it's trickling down, and we're trying to actually mimic a lot of what you're doing in developing multi-year goals and taking on big, broader ideas that will enrich us as a board. I don't have any comments. I love the idea of working on any of this and digging into all of this. The one thing I did want to say was there was an element of developing committees that was advocacy was looking at. So I thought it was like a shared.
I think at that meeting, I think what we had discussed was that that would be centered sort of in board development.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah. So then, all right, great, thank you.
That's development.
Folks have any comments, questions, Phil? Anything you want to add in terms of the goal number 3?
I mean, I think I covered it a lot with my report, but yeah, I think the idea of, well, now that we got the ball rolling on that, so there's going to be a lot more student involvement, and I also hope that that continues even like past me and with every liaison here to come. And also, I hope we can move forward also with the junior and senior staggered board event, because that's something I'm pretty passionate about. I feel like that would be just really helpful, because even if I was like a little bit last year with Isabel, like, I mean, I love my position, but it would have been like helpful to have like to know more about it before I actually got into it. So yeah, that's all.
So thumbs up and thumbs up in terms of, do we feel that we articulated a good focus to move forward? And if you could just indicate with a thumbs up or thumbs down, we do need to do a count. Okay. So it's a unanimous thumbs up? Great, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you to everyone, because it was a great work session, good process, and now we have to put action items and action steps against all this stuff and get it moving through. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Annika.
Absolutely.
Could I ask a question about, like, just in terms of next steps? Because, like, I had sent some, like, more feedback, but that was very helpful to know, like, that's not at this stage yet. You know, today's more about conceptually where things are.
Yeah.
So it sounds like at one of the upcoming work sessions, we'll then start as a group fleshing this out a little bit more.
I think what we have to decide is like whether that, you know, whether we need to flesh out the goals or whether we actually need to sort of like determine this is what we like. For example, this is what we want to build a calendar of. These are the things that we're going to talk about, you know, in terms of work sessions. Like we obviously have like the budget stuff coming up, but we've already seen this year that we've decided we're going to bring in, you know, work sessions on X, Y, and Z. So it's not necessarily fully going to take place in terms of like in these meetings, but also bringing it to like agenda planning and committees. And so the work is going to actually be farmed out amongst all of us in terms of execution. If there's something specific, I think in terms of like what we want to talk about here, if there's something to expand upon and sort of like develop as a collective of the full board, absolutely we can do that. We just need to determine that it's a discussion item and find the right time to slot it in. I think the thinking is that there are elements of each of these things that are actually going to have to take place in committee, and we know that that's where the majority of our work is getting done. So you know, we'll figure out like how, you know, what that breakdown is, and if you have recommendations, please definitely send them to all of us, because I think it's like that's
So that's not violating open meeting to just send it to everybody.
If it's informational to say this is what your proposal is, I do not think that it is.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's by all.
Discussion.
Okay, right. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because like this is very exciting to work on this, but it's like where, you know, maybe where.
And at committees, it's like, I mean, our committee meetings are happening like, it feels like every 3 days. So, sorry, that's just my.
You're not.
But they seem like they're happening every 3 days. So it's like, at our next meeting, let's talk about like, these are the goals. If there's something that wasn't charged to your committee specifically, but the committee wants to bite off a chunk of it, please do, because that's the only way it's going to move forward.
Thank you.
I would just add with regard, and a request to administration, with regard to the goal number 2, continue our learning and undertake professional development on key issues in K-12 education. A lot of that source material that we might be interested in seeing is going to be things that come across administration's desk, and I would hope that we could do a couple of things. One, have that provided to the appropriate person, maybe it's board development, and perhaps also add it into our board library, right, on board docs or whatever, so that we are able to have a repository. You know, at least in the 2 committees, district committees that I'm on, we are doing readings, and we are discussing those readings, and that's a lot of what we do. That kind of thing on that subject would be important for everyone to have access to, but I'd like to have access to other things that you folks see that you think might be useful to help us attain that goal.
Well, I would just say that, to reiterate your call, I mean, if in the weekly there was ever a time that you wanted us to read something, now that you know that this is an articulated goal, and I know you have done that, many of you have done that in the past. With respect to item number 1, I'm just going to suggest that that be something that's undertaken by board leadership as a draft, because it does require so much work on the part of the district to put all of that together, and there is a little bit of an informal scaffolding on that that's already taken place. So it would be just like a little bit of a gap filler, and at that point, we would present it back to the board for discussion again. Is that all right?
Yeah. Also, just to answer Neil, your question, I just want to remind everybody that, oh gosh, this was Sarah's idea and I don't remember what we called it. In case you missed it, 2025-26 in our board resources folder is a lovely document that contains links to interesting readings, and it is a repository for 25-26 of the stuff that we have found compelling, informative, and influential. So that's a place where you could just plop in your link and it'll be there when you come back.
All right.
Please use that.
I'm selling this because I know it's a great idea.
Please use it.
I don't think I knew that was there.
I think maybe board development on what's there.
Yes. So we have been, the board development has been sending out every month the calendar. So
Yes.
that you can see the calendar and what we will do. So we will also add a link to in case you missed it. In case you missed it. Okay?
Also, for everyone's reference, right, every weekly and addendum to the weekly has been saved down into the board resources 25-26 folder. So you can find them all there in one single location, so you don't have to
They're beautiful.
look back for your emails.
Search East Como's name and
Correct,
email address?
yes.
And for historical reference, I will provide to the district clerk all weeklies going back to 2009,
Wow.
which I have, so that we
Lucky you,
can,
Denise.
Fingerprint.
so that they can be added.
Okay.
All right, we're getting punchy here. Moving on, so that's great. We can move on from that, thank you.
Absolutely.
Moving on to item 6.1, again, approval of the consent agenda. Recommended action, be resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves all items in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Should we just,
Yes, okay. Maybe they added something.
they did.
There were some additions, just have to make sure everybody's got them all, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into our closing of the meeting, we would now, item 7.1, our second hearing of the public. We appreciate you not speaking at the first hearing of the public and extending that, Mr. Riley.
Ed Riley from Tristan Drive. From the Court of Meeting tonight. I'd like to bring your attention an article I wrote up concerning the danger of the pill combination called RU46, which is an abortion drug, which has been indiscriminately mailed throughout the United States based upon the philosophy of the previous administration. And it's a threat to women of all ages, but especially high school women, whether by taking it themselves, being given it by a boyfriend, etc. With that in mind, we have a boycott against CVS, which is the largest corporate outlet and proponent of wide-scale, indiscriminate distribution of this drug. We have a boycott against CVS in general in this winning quote. And it's interesting, when you're boycotting a national chain like CVS, it's very easy because every service that they offer can be replicated in Croton and 2 or 3 other places. So please bring that to the attention of your school nurse, because unlike previous government publications where they said the major injury rate was at 0.5%, the major injury rate for women is 11%. And you'll see here how serious it is. Even Canada, which is a sort of a large mental institution, has always said that the injury rate was more than 10%, but not in the United States because of ideological reasons. Which brings me to the second subject. Over the past few months, you've seen what I call retirement of bad ideas. And the first bad idea we'll talk about, and we don't have much time to do this, I have a minute left, is climate alarmism. That the world is coming to an end. The world's going to end tomorrow. It was supposed to end 5 years ago. The climate's going to go up so much, there'll be no more polar bears. You know, we're all going to be flooded, etc. Well, now we've come to realize, I guess when Bill Gates says so, that indeed the climate may be changing. It may be part of a natural cycle. It may indeed, the water levels may go up. But instead of tearing your hair out and doing crazy stuff we can't afford, prepare for it. And I'll give you a perfect example in the school district. This school district, under state mandate, and with voter enthusiasm, the voters did this, paid 3 times as much for school buses as they should by buying electric buses. And that $1.5 million on buses could have paid for pre-K.
That will conclude our second hearing of the public for the night. We will move into item 7.2, board reports, and we will start with advocacy.
Thank you. Our next advocacy meeting will not be until January 12th, which sort of ties well with the beginning of the budget cycle. I noted in an earlier email today that the governor announced that the State of the State will take place on January 13th. Prior to that, the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association Advocacy Committee will be meeting on December 11th, which is next week, in order to finalize the regional legislative priorities, which we will discuss at our advocacy meeting and as we continue to discuss our own particular district-wide advocacies.
I just want to, I just want to, you know, obviously, after the community outpouring here at this meeting, and I know that we did actually discuss advocating, I wonder if there isn't some out-of-committee, like not actually being in the room, work that we couldn't do to have ready at the advocacy committee meeting. So like some pre-work in terms of maybe, I don't know, a letter writing campaign, or like having some drafted items that we could put up on the district website under advocacy, the way that we used to do that, or looking for some West Pup boilerplate language regarding advocating for an increased funding.
So yeah, so as far as regional information, right, that is, it certainly is on the draft for our regional legislative priorities, and those we would expect to be finalized after that December meeting. So we'll share that with the full board. In terms of other things, right, we can, if we need to, or we want to call a meeting prior to that, we can do that, but at our January meeting, we can look at some other opportunities that we would have as a district to continue to advocate at the state level, whether that is as a resolution, whether that is you know, a voter voice that we can link to from either NISBA or WestPac. We can discuss that.
So why don't we come prepared to that meeting to do those kinds of things instead of talking about doing it and then having the gap in between the next 2 meetings. So just brainstorming things that we can bring to our January advocacy committee meeting.
Yes.
Regarding supporting advocacy on behalf of PK funding.
And is there a date that's been set for like the capital, like the advocacy day in Albany?
The NISBA, NISBA lobby day?
Yeah, that's what
yes,
I heard.
the date
It's on the
has been
calendar,
set.
I didn't remember what
It
it was.
is on the calendar.
I'm not
and
getting
it
my
is
calendar either.
February, I want to say it's February 11, but I don't have that date for me, but I can find that and get that out to everybody.
And they do provide breakfast.
They do.
6th.
February 6th. Thank you very much.
I assume you put it on the calendar.
No, I did.
Oh, you did.
So February 6th is the lobby day, and prior to that will be the capital
Capital conference.
capital
Lobby
conference.
is the
Oh, it is the 11th.
It is the
Okay,
11th.
yes.
It is
February 11th is the
yes.
levy day. The capital conference is on
Is on the
February
6th,
6th.
yeah.
So anyone who has the ability to attend the capital conference, it is a virtual conference. It is free of charge, I do believe now, to register for that. It is a really great overview of, of the governor's proposed state budget. It will tell you sort of things that happened last year, things that are missing from it, things that are good that are in it, things that the state has been advocating for. So I would highly encourage anyone who has the ability to sign on to that. It's usually from like 9 to 11:30 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I would say that that's a really good thing.
Do we have the registration link for that already?
Yes, the registration link has been sent out for that. I think I forwarded it along
I'm
from
sure.
Danielle
Yeah.
Grasso, but we can share that again.
On the question of UPK specifically and the folks that we heard from today, and the work of, and one of the speakers said, draft, it would be helpful if the board adopted a resolution to support full funding.
Yes.
I don't know the timing where that would be most efficacious. I don't like to use the word impactful.
I know.
So I'm wondering if that is something that would be appropriate for us to adopt in January, at our January board meeting, or at our January work session, January 20th, or whatever that is. I would suggest that perhaps the advocacy committee, outside of its normal meeting schedule, might put together.
Well, I think that was what Anna was suggesting, like that we will come, so we'll come to that meeting ready.
Meaning come to the 11th.
Yes.
So that we would,
So
if
that
there
we
is a
move
resolution
swiftly for the full board.
for the 20th, or whenever
So,
our work session is.
kind of like bridging what you said, but like Anna, I loved your idea of coming ready and doing that research before. I think that's great. I'm thinking, well, like two things. Again, because I'm new and I'm not sure of the timing of things, I think it would be helpful for B to understand from administration, like what is the schedule, like of if there is another RFP, like what is the schedule with this process with applications opening up and things like that, so that we kind of get a sense of some of the timing of things, because I'm happy to, get going on this even earlier than our meeting, if that would be, is necessary to, to make, like, I don't know if it makes sense to have a resolution even earlier in place, if that's gonna help move the needle with anything. Or if maybe it's fine waiting until January.
Well, I think January, because that brings us into the start of budget season and into the legislative session. I think drafting a thing prior to legislative session beginning is not really going to necessarily get the full attention we would want it to have.
Okay, good to know.
So,
thank you.
Audit,
Not meeting till after the new year.
board development.
Board Development met this afternoon, and we'll just share a quick roundup of key items that we discussed. We will be sharing with the full board the feedback that we collected from you on our fall retreat. Thank you all so much for contributing your feedback. It allowed us to sort of think about how we can sort of move forward with the winter retreat. We'll be moving back to you all formally after we have a chance to connect with board leadership and with Steve about sort of like how our thinking has evolved as of today's discussion.
Are you going to be sharing that feedback with the board?
I just said that.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to share it with the committee first, go there to the committee, and then it's in a nice little Excel, be really easy to look at. It's anonymized, so you won't know whose feedback is whose. But neither do I, because I erased it. I erased that part. So we also talked. We were tasked with reviewing some policies, which we were able to get through one meal, and then there's another one that we're going to have to bring back in January. And so we'll be sending that on. And we also had robust conversation that sort of will like help us lead into what we're going to be meeting about in January, which is sort of formalizing our schedules of evaluations and retreats in a way that serves our goals. So that was the essence of our conversation today. I haven't put it into notes, so it's sort of like synthesizing it on the spot, and that's the best I can do right now.
I think you know those.
Okay, thanks.
Communications?
So our communications will be meeting on Monday, December 8th. Is the report after that?
Sarah?
Yes.
What was the date of the state?
The 13th.
13th, thank you so much.
Yes. I will forward an email from Rose Draft.
Can't wait to hear what Governor Hochul has to say next. Liaison, policy.
I could make an extensive report, but I would just say we're meeting on the 16th at 12 noon. We have a large agenda of things that we have to work on, including the policies that were held for first reading in November that we didn't get to complete, and we will take those comments and further discussion and try to have something for the January on those and hopefully others on the January business meeting agenda.
Moving into liaison reports, we could just go around the table if you want to start with Allison.
I don't think I had any meetings between last time.
No meetings since last time.
That's me. I just wanted to quickly point out the next meeting of the CHUFSD PTSA is on December 9th at 6:30 p.m. at the high school. They're working on their agenda. I had PVC Building Planning Council today, and I won't be as extensive as I was last time, but we were able to meet alongside John and obviously Nicole and the rest of the council, and after checking ourselves on the mood meter, we launched into a hearty discussion about what success in schools looks like at the middle school level and just how unique that building is for a number of reasons. What?
I said I missed that BPC.
It was good, and I'm not joking when I say that. I left her like feeling very uplifted about the level of conversation that was being conducted about what you really need to ensure that a school is successful. So Nicole was kind enough to share with us, and I will do this again the way that I did last time. I will share with you what the rest of the board that she shared with us, but it was actually something developed by the Association for Middle Level Education, and it outlines some of the talking points that they believe is their mission statement, which made us contemplate what our mission statement would be if we were going to kind of like have a mission statement for PVC as a building as opposed to, you know, the vision for the district. And there is actually, and I have a photograph of it, and I'll send it to all of my fellow board members, a mission statement outside the third floor gym. Is that right? It dates back to probably the mid-90s, but it still does kind of hold up particularly well. So we reviewed the mission statement from the Association for Middle Level Education Middle Level Education, and really reflected on what makes those years in particular so unique. We talked about ways to increase parent participation at PVC, and maybe doing some parent-student activities, because while you don't want us to kiss you goodbye anymore, you do need to know we love you, kind of thing. And we wanted to reassure students ways to reassure students regarding the transition to CHHS. So there's apparently like a lot of angst about like what is it going to be like, and increased pressure some students feel regarding grading. They're just moving from the different report cards, the different grading systems. They're hearing it through the pipeline, they're hearing about it from their peers in other districts that have numerical grading at the middle school level. Did I miss anything, John?
You did a great job.
Quentin, so now you're not picking it up here after. It was just a really interesting conversation regarding how development, like one of the points that's on the mission statement is leaders are committed to and knowledgeable about young adolescents, equitable practices, and educational research, like approaching what makes success in that, what makes that building successful from like a science-based examination of meeting each student developmentally and how complex that is because of how everybody is changing at a different rate within that building. You know, we did kind of talk about how most often, or it's been my experience, that you see students get to the high school and they kind of like are ready to branch out and find new things, but it's like they're in a pressure cooker to some extent, like while they're at the middle school, and how unique that was. But I'll stop talking about it now. That was my PVC building council meeting.
So I attend CET's Building Planning Council, and one of the things that I'm really excited about this year, you know, now having been on all three of the building planning councils, is this year this focus on having the building planning council sort of address similar topics across the buildings. That level of sort of coordination and consideration, I really have to say I really appreciate, because I think it's allowing us to get a picture of what these important topical issues are, like how they're playing out in each of the buildings. I am going to make my plea again, you know, because I have a microphone, to say I would love it if we could think about moving these board reports to earlier in the meeting, because I feel like the public needs to hear about the great work that is happening at Building Planning Council, at some of these committee meetings, and at some of this other stuff that we're doing in the district, both like as administrators and as board trustees, and you know, even like, you know, students who are attending these meetings, because it's like the mechanism for joint decision making that is served here by Building Planning Council. It's like, it's a pretty unique and remarkable thing, and I think for all of us as trustees, it's like what we've identified it as like one of the most powerful experiences in terms of our coming to an understanding of how schools work. And you know, I think that this year the focus on connecting the conversations to district goals and the strategic plan and the vision is really, really important. For me today at CET, I came out of this meeting partly because they gave me this delicious popcorn, but also because it was such a great meeting. We had a conversation also about what does success in school look like, and we discussed it in the context of the following, which is, we all know from what we've been hearing from our staff, from our parents, from our faculty, from you know, the world at large, that technology is a huge question. And so that was the question that we asked ourselves today at CET Building Planning Council. The teachers, the administrators, the community members, the board trustee. We talked about what should we be promoting the technology use in the elementary school, and what should we be, you know, thinking about revisiting. And the conversation really was, there was such a recognition of, I think that, you know, we've talked about like the pendulum swinging back and forth in terms of technology. There were so many interesting points that were surfaced that we know that we're not actually, it wasn't enough to talk about it today, so I think we're going to talk about it again in 2 months. And it's going to guide, I think, the conversation over the next couple of years in this district. What is really exciting is that, like, you know, this is really coming, I think, from, as Steve, you have already articulated, having our administrators and our teachers really examine their practices, go into the buildings and say, what are we doing, and is it serving the goal of educating our students? What the discussion today, I'm sorry, because this is like one of my passion topics, so I'm going to expound for a second. But what really came out of this conversation, and it's like a 45-minute conversation, but it's like you distill and you get to like these really important things that make you think, is like, so this question of, you know, like what are we focusing on in terms of what's the balance between digital learning and like, you know, manual physical learning? And that is like a conflict that like every educator is facing on a daily basis, and they're evaluating it and they're thinking about it. And the fact that we're doing it sort of formally, I think, is going to really inform what we're doing in all of our school buildings. So I was really excited to be part of that conversation and to hear how seriously the educators are thinking about this. It's like, this is all they're thinking about. The other thing is that I think there's such a concern about sort of like, you know, like the equity concerns about like people who are coming into our schools with different levels of technology experience, and like what our responsibility is to those students. That was an interesting topic as well. And the thing that really struck me actually is we're always having these conversations about digital literacy, and we're talking about digital literacy as if it's something that we need to be imparting to students. But what was identified at this meeting was, you know what? Staff and teachers would like to be having this conversation as well. So like to understand what are in fact the best practices. You know, how does policy inform and restrict us? And how can we be revisiting our practice? Because we're seeing that it's like, there are things that we've started doing that maybe we don't totally want to be doing. So I feel like everyone's really engaging. It was such a great conversation. I totally can't wait to go back. So I want to commend Craig and Carrie and everybody who was there today. It was so fabulous. This is like one of my favorite parts of being on the school board is because I don't get to go to CET stuff anymore because my kids aren't there. So I really, really love that this is something that we do in the district. Thank you.
Thank you for that review. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the high school BPC. Were you able to attend?
I was.
Oh, wonderful. So he'll give us a review of that. I didn't have any other district or liaison committees in the
You want to report on Westwood?
I did. Well,
You already did.
Yeah, I already did. The last week, so.
So I'll keep us moving. We met today, CHHS, Building Planning Council, and we talked a lot about the Tiger Tuesdays. And interesting connection that they're planning on having a digital literacy panel that is run by students and invite CT parents and families to participate.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to hear that the students are going to want to talk about their experiences with technology and what felt in a way that would alleviate some of the concerns that parents have with early adoption of technology. But I can't wait to hear how that goes. What else are we talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to give props to Dr. Duback because that was Dr. Duback's idea, and she did it in response to hearing what some of the community concern was, and it was just like this. She was like, "Why don't we get students to talk to them about that?" And I was like, "That's amazing," and to see it now like actually happening, and the students are very excited about it, and yeah.
Laura and John Bahani.
Yes.
Wait, before we go on, a student voice.
I just wanted to say I'm actually on that, so I'll be able to provide direct feedback to that and how that goes. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of student voice, the student participation in the Building Planning Council increased, where now it's 50-50 roughly.
Nice.
I think there were 6 students and 7 administrators and parents. Which is a wonderful, wonderful mix. And they were engaging, and we had a really nice discussion. So that was on the Building Planning Council. I do have an administrative committee suggestion for the administration, having been to 3, I want to say, so far. One of the committees was structured in a way that I felt was really, really impactful. We had a really good discussion. It was structured where there was a period. We had to think about something, come to that meeting, talk about it, digest it, share our understanding. The agenda was clear. The expectations of the outcomes of that meeting were communicated early on. So we walked in ready to know what we're going to talk about, what that's going to mean for kind of future meetings. And I think it's an opportunity to take that model, because I didn't see it consistently applied, but it was so powerful because we were really just jumped into kind of instructional strategy and how to kind of move the district forward, that I wanted to share that feedback with the administration. I think it's a great opportunity to ensure consistency across the district committees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On November 20th, at the work session, I reported on the 2 district committees that I am a member of, the What Success Means for Students, or in school rather, and assessment and feedback. The Success Committee is meeting next Monday.
Did you do your homework yet? You got reading to do.
I printed it out. It will be ready.
One third of the time. It's okay.
Yeah, and the assessment committee will meet Monday after that, and so I will be able to report at the work session.
Nice.
Thank you. I forgot, we were on the technology committee, and just thinking about a number of the comments that were made during the public hearing of the public. they were actually mirroring a lot of, I felt like, what the conversation we were having here, it was in the space among committee members. And there does seem to be like the conversations that the community is having about what is, like, when does technology support learning and when does it become a distraction? What are the affordances? Like, we're having those conversations, and I feel, thankfully, I feel like they're very complex and productive. So what became clear from that is that part of the outcome from the technology committee is to revise the technology plan. And so, yeah, I think hearing from the community their feelings about it is very helpful in informing our discussions of the committee.
Moving into item 7.3, polling of the board. Nope. Does anyone have anything? Oh, that was board reports.
Oh, I thought that was poll.
Yeah, sorry. I'll just note that I was able to attend last night the winter concert at CHUFSD, and I just continue to be amazed. The sound quality in the auditorium is just fabulous. The same pride that we start hearing about our students take when they walk on Spencer Field or play football until midnight and cackle loudly and just have such joy on the field behind PVC. It was so amazing. They were up there playing football, creating memories in the dark on Thanksgiving night. They're playing on these fields that, you know, this community supported you all, you know, installing and managing and all of that. So I want to thank you guys all for that. But the enthusiasm that you hear in all of the athletics, they looked proud last night walking into the auditorium, all of our amazing musicians. And the program is just phenomenal. It just breaks your heart every single time. Yeah, so I was able to do that.
Can I just share that that was an incredible concert, because just to give some perspective, this is only, the fourth month of school? And each ensemble performed 7 or 8 pieces or movements. That in itself, to get a repertoire that was that sizable, and the sophistication of the music that they chose in the repertoire, and the musicianship that was brought to executing it, was, I have to say, just really astounding. Probably the best high school concert I've seen in 8 years here, just because of the amount of repertoire, the quality of the repertoire, and the kids rose to the occasion. So those teachers are just doing an incredible job with our students.
It is amazing, and it also reflects the programming at the elementary school, and then the programming that's continued in the middle school, and to see it all culminate at the high school is just this is why we do the stuff we do, right? And put in the time that we do. It was very, very good. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Go ahead.
A couple of things. First, I attended the Tri-Towns Orchestra concert at Yorktown High School on Saturday the 22nd, I believe it was. Also there was fellow ex officio student trustee DeMarco and Mr. Griffiths. It was amazing, like you say, it's amazing how that was put, things were put together in 4 months. The way the 3 high school orchestra members and leaders, orchestra leaders from Hinhud, Yorktown, and Croton Harmon came together to put together a relatively short, I would have liked more music, but a very tight ensemble, whereas I understand from speaking to some of the teachers, each of the groups in each high school worked separately. And then on the day of the concert in the morning, they came together and put everything together. It was amazing.
And it was symphonic, so the high school students don't usually get to perform in a symphonic arrangement where there's not only the strings, but the brass and the reeds, and it was really a great experience for those musicians.
And the only other thing that I want to just report on is, as a member of the Putnam, the Westchester BOCES board, we have our next meeting Tuesday, the 9th. I can report that the BOCES capital project or energy performance project to build a 15-acre solar field on the land on the Yorktown campus has been approved by all concerned, and construction or preliminary construction has started. BOCES will be receiving $4 million, I think it is, as a federal grant, as long as they got it started, which they have, and 5% completed by the end of the year. And that will do a lot, both for improving energy efficiencies and for saving money on the administrative budget allocated to our school districts. There will be other things coming up, including the BOCES budget. And one of the things that I'm hoping will happen is the opportunity to have members of component boards visit BOCES, see the work that's being done,
We love that.
and seeing that construction work that is also being done. And I know between our superintendent and District Superintendent Boyle, we can find a time. The only issue would be, like doing a learning walk, the best time to go is when kids are there, and that may be difficult for some. But let's talk about it, see what we can do.
So, anyone else? Anyone else? So moving into item 7.4, our next Board of Education meeting. Our next Board of Education meeting will be held at the district office on December 18th. It will start early at 7 p.m. So if the one who always shows up at 7:30, it is at 7 p.m. From 7 to 10. It's the tenure and probationary review, and that is an executive session because it is dealing with the hiring of person,
So,
HR. Yeah.
so I just presume that to the extent this is a business item, that will be in public before we go into exec session.
Correct.
But then after that,
Right.
the rest of the
The
evening
probationary
will be
review is
yeah,
executive
is a
session.
session.
Correct. But if there is anything else on the agenda, that will be public. Absolutely.
And the DOE is moving to 6:30. It starts at 6:30?
It starts at 7.
So the DOE is moved to 6:30, which I think we have on our calendar.
And it is held in the lobby.
In the lobby,
of the
yeah.
district office, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it will.
That'll be in our notice anyway.
Correct. So moving into item 7.5.
On
Sorry.
I just have one quick thing, because it came to mind when you were talking about what we're focusing on next semester. Oh my gosh, it's late. Next session. So like one of the things we accepted earlier today is the resignation of John, his retirement, which is our big, shoes to fill. It's such an important position for the district. There's so many things happening. Is it like it would be? I think the community wants to know like what's the game plan? Like how are we? Like what's going to be the process the search process to fill this role, very important role in the district? So. I don't know when we're going to hear an update of that, but I would love to hear that maybe as soon as possible because people are concerned. Thank you.
Moving into item 7.5, adjournment of the meeting. Recommended action be it resolved. The Board of Education hereby adjourns the meeting at 11:07 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Have a great evening, everyone.